So it's 6 p.m. in the nighttime, which is when I wake up. This is always a really scary part for me.
So far, all of our vampire movies have been released in the 20th century. From Nosferatu in 1922, to the 1980s where we talked about The Hunger and The Lost Boys, to 1992 where we talked about Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. Tonight we're going to discuss our first vampire movie of the 21st century. That is Taika Waititi and Jemaine Clement's What We Do in the Shadows.
I just really like having a good time with my friends. Beacon. Hi. Hey, Beacon. How was your night last night?
I transformed into a dog and had sex.
The popular 2014 Vampire Mockumentary that revolves around a group of vampires sharing a flat in Wellington, New Zealand, based on Waititi and Clement's 2005 short film, What We Do in the Shadows, Interview with Some Vampires.
Live in the shadows, hide in the shadows, hunt in the shadows. And what other things do we do in the shadows? We go shopping sometimes in the shadows, or make love in the shadows.
It has since spawned an entire franchise, including the American show What We Do in the Shadows, created by Clement, that follows a group of vampires and Colin the Energy Vampire sharing a mansion in Staten Island, and a New Zealand show Wellington Paranormal, a spin-off about the two police officers from the original movie. Waititi and Clement were fans of Bram Stoker's Dracula, Interview with the Vampire, The Lost Boys, and Nosferatu, as well as Salem's Lot and Fright Night. References to these movies abound in What We Do in the Shadows.
My name's Taika.
And my name's Jemaine. We made What We Do in the Shadows, which is a movie, but here's some other vampire movies that we like.
The Lost Boys.
Salem's Lot.
Interview with the Vampire.
Nosferatu.
Let the Right One In.
Fright Night, the original.
Vampire's Kiss.
Scars of Dracula.
Scars of Dracula. The prequel, Wounds of Dracula.
That's not a real one.
Waititi plays Viego, a 17th century dandy turned into a vampire who came to New Zealand in the early 20th century searching for love. Viego is definitely a take on the Anne Rice variety of vampire. He's overly sentimental, romantic, and dandified, annoying his roommates at times with his nervous, fussy mother hen energy.
Well, I'm glad to hear that I'm cool.
No, that's not the point, though.
Yeah,
no, I know.
Not a
I know.
flat meeting about how cool you are.
I do my flat chores.
No, you
No,
don't.
you
Yes,
don't.
I do.
That's why we're having the flat meeting.
Jemaine Clement plays his roommate, Vladislav the Poker, a once powerful medieval vampire who then lost his nerve and his power after fighting the Beast.
Jim's vampire is called
Vladislav the Poker.
Was once a very old and powerful vampire who ruled over a little mini kingdom sort of thing. He was very powerful. He used to have great power over people and very strong powers of hypnosis. He's not lovable at all. He was
And then, but
despicable,
now,
but
let's catch up
he's
with
lost
him
a
now.
lot of his power now.
Now he's flat sharing.
Clement claims that his performance is based on Gary Oldman in Bram Stoker's Dracula. And Jonathan Brew plays Deacon, the youngest vampire in the house, only 183 years old. Deacon was turned by Peter, an ancient 8,000-year-old Nosferatu who mostly just sleeps and stays silent in the basement. A documentary crew that the vampires have promised not to eat follows these vampires around, documenting what it's like to be a vampire in modern Wellington. Things get extremely tense when an annoying club douche named Nick is turned into a vampire by Peter and doesn't take to the vampire life very well, causing a lot of issues and embarrassment for the guys, but also through his best friend Stu, a quiet, reserved human, being brought into the 21st century that had just passed them by, living together in this flat, not really interacting with humans. What We Do in the Shadows has funny takes on many of the great vampire tropes: sunlight, turning into animals, the aversion to vampire hunters, hypnotism, flying like the Lost Boys. They also have an ongoing beef with the werewolves of Wellington, a group of guys who hang out in the park every month during the full moon.
Let's count Fegula.
Hey, don't swear.
Sorry,
We're werewolves.
Not swear.
What are we?
Werewolves, not swear.
No, it's
a very offensive word to call people.
They also have human servants who are promised everlasting life in exchange for doing chores and things that the vampires can't do during the day. Like in Dracula, they often Renfield these servants, stringing them along for as long as they can. One of the funniest parts of the movie, the camera crew follows a dinner where Deacon servant Jackie brings 2 guests to the house to be eaten. This is where we first see Nick before he's turned. Deacon tries to do the "you're eating worms" bit from the Lost Boys to his guests.
So this is my favorite trick. We present our guest with a plate of biscotti. And then I will say, why don't you eat some biscotti? Please, Nick, eat some biscotti. I didn't realize you enjoyed eating worms, Nick. Look.
Stu, the IT tech guy who's Nick's friend, is actually a high school friend of Taika Waititi, who's actually an IT tech guy named Stu. And he was not told that he'd have such a big role in the movie until it was premiered and he watched it. The humor of What We Do in the Shadows is extremely referential, constantly referencing many of the movies we've talked about this month, as well as movies like Twilight and Blade. On a budget of $1.6 million, including $447,000 raised on Kickstarter, What We Do in the Shadows made back $7.3 million at the box office.
Twilight! Shut up, Nick! You're not Twilight. It's your problem. You are my problem. Telling the world that we are vampires.
I'm gonna tell the whole world that you're an asshole now as well.
Shut up!
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. We also have a new Discord and a Letterboxd HQ account, so those are 2 more places to follow along with us. Links are in the description. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Kristina Oakes is streaming on Twitch at Cosmopolitics, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics. Also recently joined YouTube, she's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Cosmopolitics. Send her some subs on Twitch, and send her a coffee. Katie Baldassaro is the co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, a director, writer, and actress who wrote and co-directed Girl in the Basement, along with appearing in horror movies like The Purge Election Year and The Devil's Nightmare. You can catch her voice acting in the podcast series, The Starwell Foundation, and she's the host of What If I Don't Like It, and on TikTok at Movie Runtime. Bonnie Burton is a writer, author, and journalist, the former senior editor and social media strategist for StarWars.com and content developer for Lucasfilm. She has written games for Hunt a Killer, and most recently a Magic the Gathering murder mystery game, Magic the Gathering, Murders at Karlov Manor, The Case of the Three-Blade Knife. I, of course, am your host, and some asshole that needs to be invited into the club, Forrest Miller. You're not Twilight, I'm Twilight.
Fantastic. Love
Guys, you know the movie Twilight? I'm the main guy. I'm Twilight.
I'm the guy.
Twilight.
I'm the sparkle.
I'm the titular character of Twilight, named Twilight.
Welcome back, Connie, again for what, the 3rd time?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you weren't on the last one with her.
I know.
Oh wait. Yeah, you didn't get to.
What are we doing? What do we
Did
have?
you get to see this guy?
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
He's getting a lot of airtime this month.
He's a
Usually he's asleep in his little coffin.
Hey
Look how
Conan,
nice
I think I found a new voice for you to do.
Nice. Good.
I like
where
that
you're
he's
going,
got
kid.
He's got the nice Justin
hairline.
What's that actor's name?
Right.
Justin Theroux.
Yeah, Justin Theroux.
Justin
Yeah.
Theroux.
Yeah.
Can somebody explain to our podcast listeners exactly what the hell we're talking about?
Yeah, so we're talking about a
Bonnie
rat.
has
It's a mouse. It's a mouse that's in Dracula.
Oh yeah.
You know, a
Taxidermy
Dracula
mouse.
outfit. You know, he has a
Yeah.
cape. He has a Justin
Yeah.
Theroux
He is
hairline.
cute.
Just Justin Theroux, as we will henceforth call it. Yeah.
He has,
Just
he has-
Theroux head?
he has
There we go.
fangs, which is
Look at that
rare
profile.
rare for a mouse. A mouse usually does not have fangs.
I mean-
a mouse usually has kind of square teeth that
He's
they
got
can really,
really
bite
nice-
down on stuff.
The question is if he thinks he's Twilight or not, though. That's my question.
No, he doesn't sparkle. Only this part sparkles.
Good. All right. All right.
Okay, sorry.
You know what's interesting about like this movie is the fact that so many people have like not seen it when it first came out, and a lot of people now are like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad I saw it. This movie's so good," because they heard of the TV
great.
show before the movie.
Yeah.
People in our Discord, people in the chat right now, like, they're just not aware of that this was ever a feature.
How did
I always
everybody
forget.
see this movie? But when did you find it? How did you find it? I found
So I'm
it in the weirdest way possible. I saw it
Mine's pretty
before it
easy.
came out. Before it came out in the United States, I saw it on a plane to New Zealand.
What?
Oh wow! Wow.
What is that airplane?
It's energy right there.
That's a great airplane
It
movie.
was
Yeah.
superb. And it wasn't like, it was one of the 5 movies. It was the only movie the whole plane had to watch it together. Everybody,
Well,
I don't know how we
the
made
As
it.
a family.
The plane was
As a
shaking
co-
so much. And I went into it blind. I'm like, I don't know anything about this. It's the only
That's
thing I
amazing.
can watch on a 27-hour flight. Let's go.
Yeah. Great.
What about
And
you
you could
guys?
watch over and over and over.
Yeah, I did.
I was a huge Flight of the Conchords fan, still am. I'm a big Jemaine Clement fan, and I was a big fan, even though I didn't watch all of his movies. I liked Eagle vs. Shark quite a bit, so I knew that he was a talented indie filmmaker at the time. Indie filmmaker.
I was familiar with the film because there was a lot of like edits and gifs made of it on Tumblr, but I forgot about it. It wasn't until I saw Legion that Jemaine was in, obviously, as Oliver. So good. And then, of
Great
course,
dramatic turn by that guy. He's great.
It's a great series too.
Yeah, when I saw the TV show, I was like, it got promoted the hell out of, when it first came out. I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't there? I'm like, wait, there was a movie first.
Yeah.
And so I watched the movie first, and I'm like, oh, that's exactly what the TV show is. And you could actually kind of sort of find like the similarities between the characters from the show and from the movie. Especially when Forrest is breaking down in the intro the different types of like what those characters represent. So I'm like, oh, like Taika's character is like the Nandor, like the upkeep and try to keep everything, doing the meetings.
So
and
the
do all
Anne
that.
Rice style
But it's
vampire.
also a little bit Matt Berry too at times, and like
Yeah.
he's the impresario. So it's like they bifurcated the characters and spread them out.
Which is funny because those same characters do show up in the television show as themselves later on.
Yeah.
So
With a bunch
there's
of
a lot
other
of great
vampires.
cameos. Yeah.
Yeah.
along with
No-
Wesley Snipes too. Great.
No
And,
Kiefer,
no
though.
notes.
No Kiefer.
Can
Yeah,
I
that's
just
what's
throw
up.
in something there?
Yeah.
They messed up. An intern messed up and confused Kate Blanchett with Kate Beckinsale. So they asked Kate Blanchett to be in that scene, and she was so excited, and they had to tell her no because she wasn't a vampire before.
Well, wait, didn't she get in it anyway?
No, they wanted only vampires.
I am Lydia Todd.
How is first of all right? Can we just write Kate Blanchett a vampire movie like right now? Can we just
Yeah.
pause this episode and let's just do this?
Bye-bye. I'm getting to it right now.
I'm
Leave
kind of
studio.
shocked he isn't in one already. Like, how does it not happen?
That
yet?
seems incredible that she is.
She's in Ragnarok, so like,
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly.
I don't know. I guess that's a
She likes to work.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
a
like,
goth queen, goth
This is-
queen-esque.
this is such an indie movie too because they had to crowdfund.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Which I think another reason why it flew under a lot of people's radar because it didn't have any studio backing, not even the same backing like that Flight of the Conchords had. At least that had HBO money, right?
Yeah, well,
And they
they-
did
they
a
were
30-minute
like-
short to try and get people excited,
Yeah.
and it never went anywhere. And that's why they kind of crowdfunded, because like they just didn't get the interest off the short that they wanted.
Which is great. I mean,
It kept, they kept like, we want to make this into an actual film. This seems like a good idea. Like
Well, look at him
vampires.
now.
Yeah.
yeah, it worked out fine. But also, I think, real quick, Kristina, I think that it also coincided with people kind of discovering Matt Berry at the same time for the show.
Oh yeah.
That both those
I knew
things.
him I mean, Matt's first American like debut Mighty Boosh, or was it something else?
I thought it was the IT crowd.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Because he was the second
Well,
boss in the IT crowd.
Yeah, but I don't know which came out first. I mean, I had bootlegs. Like I was watching stuff illegally on VPN, so like I saw stuff in the UK that hadn't come here yet. But I know
Mighty
that Mighty
Boosh is 2004.
Okay.
I didn't hear about the
also a
Mighty
great
Boosh
singer,
until
too.
the Great British Bake Off took off, so I was very late to that.
Oh,
Weird
the
way to
Noel
get into it,
Fielding.
too.
The Noel Fielding is the elder goth that America discovered
Right.
because of Bake Off.
Right.
In high school, I remember like really early in high school. I think I was like a freshman or something. I remember being shown Old Greg in a class. Someone was like, "Yo,
Oh
look at this."
wow!
And they were like,
Nice.
and
In high
it was
school?
literally like, yeah, it was
Whoa.
literally just.
He's a child, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I compare Mighty Boosh, and also I compare this movie that we're gonna talk about as like goth young ones, because the young ones was
Totally.
a great
Yes.
series in the 80s about roommates who constantly fought and constantly had weird hangups and they were the alternative kids, except for like one who was like the older guy that was kind of like blackmailing his way through school, but he thought he was a ladies' man and he wasn't.
Yeah,
So like
the Young Ones is amazing.
every time
yeah.
I watch this, it's like, because being human, I think predates this, right? And being human was vampire, werewolf, ghost, roommates, and it was a serious, like a
Yeah,
serious
but this is done comedically, and Young Ones is a great comparison to it because this has.
Yeah.
What really makes this work, and one of the reasons why we have it in the canon for this month, is because this takes what we've seen previously even further. Like these are vampires, but they have the same like bad habits, foibles, like awkwardness.
And they reference
Conan.
Being creatures of the night hasn't made them like cool or wise or classy
they're
or
like
important.
Sexy.
They're like terrible. They're inconsiderate to each other. You know,
they're
they're
like-
self-involved.
They're just like us for real.
Yeah, and
I love
also
that.
it's like they're like the
Just like this
boomers-
show. Kidding.
They're
Jokes.
the boomers of the undead because they're
Right.
so old that they're not up to date on anything.
Yeah.
Unless they kill someone young. But also, it's a good example of why Anne Rice and other very famous, well-known vampire novelists, she's not a vampire, but writes about vampires, that whole trope that vampires cannot hang out together because they get on each other's nerves for too much. It's not like werewolves with that pack mentality. Vampires are too annoying and they can't be around each other for too long in more than one. So it's like this really takes that to another level of this is why you shouldn't have a lot of it's not like the Lost Boys where it was like, oh, this is like a biker gang and we're like hanging out and we're cool. No. It's like the most annoying art school students and wannabe film students and models who are all forced to be together with each other for eternity, and they all have horrible habits as roommates, and it's such a joyous show to watch. Because it's like, oh yeah, they were humans. So of course, if they're annoying humans, they're going to be annoying immortals. So it's
they do kind of a version of that kind of the opposite of this, where they're like, they're annoying, but they're together thing in Preacher, like the comic series of Preacher, where they have a vampire that
These are good connections, guys.
Yeah,
that's a good reference.
It's literally just an Anne Rice style vampire that's like living in the castle and has like coiffed his hair and bites people and all that stuff. And Cassidy gets so fucking upset with him that he
deeply annoying in a lot of ways too. Well, yeah, but also the thing that makes this work so well too is this also came up as the rise of reality television. It's done in a mockumentary style, and it's easy to forget about because it's like one of those things where we got used to like The Office, right? Like how many years have they been like in and they make a meta reference joke at some point that
how many joke you say, Conan?
But like they've been making this documentary for like this many seasons or whatnot, but like What We Do in the Shadows, like they address it immediately and it's done like in this classic style of Christopher Guest, like Rob Reiner, like it's like the Spinal Tap of vampires. I actually said, and I'll stand by it, it's the Walk Hard of vampires, really. But
Can I ask I want to ask you specifically a question because I know. Were you also part of a mockumentary? I was part of a mockumentary, and I think you were part of a mockumentary with the guy who did Coven.
Mark's done 2 videos for us, but I was not in any thing with Mark.
You were adjacent the mockumentary style.
I'm mockumentary adjacent. I've been in documentaries, but I've never been in a mockumentary. Weirdly,
yeah,
that I'm aware of.
Maybe
I'm just not in on the joke.
I guess I've been in 2 of them were Star Wars related. So one about R2 and one about
mockumentaries.
Mockumentary. Yeah, so I'm R2 mockumentary and also like a late night infomercial that was Star Wars, and that was like a mock. And then I've been in like fan films and stuff.
Kind of the Guild. I guess the Guild really was. There wasn't like camera crew.
The Guild was not really a mockumentary. It's like a really cute scripted show that Felicia put together about gamers, which was pretty factual. I don't think of it as a documentary, to be honest, because I played myself. I didn't
respect.
I wasn't, like,
actually, yeah.
I wasn't like I was in a couple of. I don't remember. I was in it, but I wasn't like a main character. But I played myself. But other people.
So my question is, when they did that with you, did they? The mockumentary that I did wound up being a mockumentary because it was a movie that got failed, and they tried to salvage it by just taping the failure of the movie. And this is a movie where they taped 125 hours that they edited into 90 minutes, which is, of course, how he didn't know he was a main character in the film. He just had no idea how much he was going to wind up on screen.
Wow.
So with your mockumentary, Bonnie, did they just spaghetti it against the wall as well? Or were you like tight? You had an idea?
Oh, no, it was like, I think 2 of them were Star Wars Lucasfilm approved. And then fan films. This was an era when we did the Star Wars Fan Film Festival. We were the only studio to do that. And it was the beginning of YouTube. And so fans were in cosplay making their own mini Star Wars films. And instead of throwing a cease and desist at them, like other people would, or maybe like Disney does now, we were like, hey, let's just make a film fest. And so every year, if you won, you got to remaster your film at Skywalker Ranch, like the Sky Sound, which was like, that's like $1 million worth of, I know, right? And also I think you get to meet George. And then as part of my job, I mean, spoiler alert, I guess I could say this. I don't know. I don't remember signing an NDA about it, but I was the one that went through hundreds of like movies, and I picked the top 5 for George to watch. And I think the first time we did it, it was like George's attention spans like mine is super short. So I think he was like, okay, now we need them to be under 5 minutes. Like I can't be sitting here with my valuable time watching a half hour. I mean, he didn't say those words, but it was implied in his expression, which is how you learn to speak George Lucas when you work there. You just learn to speak. And what does that mean? And but it was really fun. And it wasn't until years later I found out one of the fan film guys was like turned into the Dexter serial killer. And I was like, oh, good thing he didn't win. I'm glad that we didn't have George looking.
Dodge that bullet. Yeah.
Yeah. He was some dude that's like became a serial killer that actually he thought he was Dexter. Like he just basically, anyway, that's another.
He thought it was a documentary, actually.
I'm dead.
Any of the documentaries, and also documentaries I've been in, it's been scripted, unless it's like Disturbance of the Force, which is the most recent one I'm in with like Seth Green and Weird Al and those guys. That's just the history of the Star Wars holiday special. That's not like a scripted documentary. Yeah.
So 2 things. Documentaries I've been in, they have not been scripted. It's just been speaking extemporaneously. But that said, if you watch
versus documentaries.
If you watch Why Am I Doing This, there are parts of it that make it seem like a mockumentary, but I assure you every single piece of it is real, including all the absurdist parts of it. That was the next part.
And
of
the stuff that I did in the Guild, I had to be like Silent Bob because I'm not a SAG actor, or I'm not so I had to just do this a lot.
Okay. Second part, and I'm just going to barrel through on this. This may be the first time we've invoked someone on the show, and they've showed up in the comments. Mark Borchardt, the director, on the comments.
Here's his name.
They just put I think it was within the last month. They did American Movie as a Blu-ray edition. They just put out the nice fancy Blu-ray with the with all the features and stuff. The 25th anniversary one.
So he's the subject of that documentary, but also a director of films himself. And he said fascinating because I've been typing in pages for TMTS 7.
That is fascinating.
Wow, that's awesome.
So Mark's he came on Deliverance. Thanks, I think we had him on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh. We love to have Mark on again. Hint.
Hey guys, remember how like earlier in the month we were talking about like vampires being rich and wealthy and whatever, and I was like, if you've been alive as a vampire for so many centuries, you might as well go into the sun if you haven't developed wealth yet.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
you can hypnotize people and like you still are like, you don't have it figured out.
It depends on how that lore is figured out, because I just rewatched a great German vampire movie called We Are the Night. And those girls just steal stuff. So they're not rich because they earned it. They literally like kill people for their Lamborghinis. So
well, the caveat there, and again, I think there's great use of hypnotism in What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yeah.
And again, if you have that power and you're still renting, like I don't even know.
I know. I mean, yeah, that's your own fault.
Your apartment over to me to own.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's just your own problem.
I have already paid you security deposit.
You will not raise the rent by $400.
Yeah, no renting. We're buying.
I love.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the Taika Waititi though, like where he's like, I'm not too good at I'm not too good at doing the hypnotism, so I do not know when this will wear off. And it's
which of course is when the Wellington PT shows up, which was actually the first spinoff, because the show What We Do in the Shadows was the second spinoff of this. That was basically Cops plus Reno 911.
I wanted to point out like another thing that's really, really funny about this is like hard relatable, I think, for at least some people. Like I like the idea that Vladislav the Poker has peaked already, pretty much. Like he peaked, he had his like big like dramatic relationship, and now he's kind of on the decline. And it's like he's sharing a flat with these other two guys, these other three guys, because he's fucking, he's already had his moment where he was like a medieval torturer and like the world was his oyster, and now it's like he's kind of just rotting away with his friends in this flat.
But he think that he's still like he's not the Fonzie of the group, I wouldn't say, but it's definitely like
the vibe.
No, Deacon's the Fonzie of the group.
When you're that old, I mean, when you're the oldest in the house, that's just not a fun. And that you've already burned bright, and now you're in retirement stage. Last thing you want to do is hang out with people like this.
Yeah. Well, so I like the idea that like the Taika Waititi character, he's like Vago, right? Like he's the Anne Rice style of vampire,
super romantic,
with the
like flowing shirts,
he's a dandy, literally. But then,
new romantic,
graceful, delicate, demure,
has feelings and emotions.
Jemaine Clement based his performance as Vladislav on like the Gary Oldman style brand,
which you can totally. And that first scene where he like walks in on him having sex, and it's like on the wall, and it's it's an homage of the Keanu Reeves Brides of Dracula thing.
Yeah, literally that scene. And the other thing is, I like timeline wise, right? Because I was watching clips of them talking about filming this. Timeline wise, when they first put this out, it was like 2005, the first one, right? Like they did What We Do in the Shadows, interview with some vampires, and you can literally see them workshopping these bits.
So
you can see them workshopping these bits with really fake. I mean, like the vampire teeth in their mouth, like not like the good ones like you see here where it's actual fangs. Like they literally have like dollar store
plastic,
and you could see them literally workshopping these bits and improvising it, and that was before anything like Twilight. So they were developing this movie for 8 years in between 2005 and 2014, and they were trying to workshop all these bits and like turn them into a movie. And then Twilight dropped in 2008 as they were workshopping this movie, which I think made them postpone it a little bit because What a Vampire Was got so much more annoying after
culturally it changed. Well, it's not personally, I agree. But like culturally, it changed in the same way that we mentioned in the Bram Stoker's Dracula episode, right? That like
and financially,
generationally changed like vampires, much to the chagrin of people my age.
But financially, too, I mean, that is something to bring up financially because a lot of studios would not touch vampire movies with a stake. Not to be, you know what I mean. But like the minute Twilight came out, and they knew how much money they could make. Same with the literary side of things. Vampire novels were really hard to sell to publishers, and once Twilight made all that money with the books, whether you like them or not, it doesn't matter. They made so much money that publishers were scrambling for vampire stuff, and also Twilight filled the Buffy void that was empty for a lot of us. So it doesn't matter how bad it is. A lot of us were just like way thirsty or the hunger. As
the case may be, yes.
And I honestly, like, it didn't even matter. Like, but those studios, big studios, not these small indie horror studios, but big studios were like, oh my God, we need more vampire movies. So it actually got a resurgence of people creating and being financially successful, even if it's a sucky movie or whatever. It's still like
Vampire Suck.
Vampire Suck. But it opened the doors. It opened the doors to a lot more creation of good vampire movies. So, I mean, yay.
Which is funny because then it pivots back to zombies for a while with Walking Dead, right?
Yeah.
But, like it's,
And
but it's
that was a good one.
And I
Yeah.
love zombies. I think the way that Bonnie likes vampires, and I have reached a point where I don't want any more. I am satiated.
No, it's enough.
Please stop. Please stop. But I did want to go back to, we were talking about Jermaine's performance inspiration. Did you know that Taika's inspiration was his mom? He's going for like the jovial sweetness and romanticism of his own mom.
Yeah.
Aw.
I have the clip where they talk about this.
That's so sweet.
Nice.
Where I have the clip where they're explaining like all of their influences, which I like, and I played some of it in the intro where they're talking about I don't know, it cracks me up. They have the whole line where he's like there's this line where he's like, oh, it's like the wound of the vampire, and he's like, that's not a real. You just made that movie.
Who would
When you get
Deacon, like a rock star influence, perhaps?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I think it's
Deacon is supposed
like
to
a
be
Mick
from Lost
Jagger.
Boys. according
Deacon
to
is basically Lost Boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
Makes sense.
You're not Lost Boys, Deacon.
Vampires in a flat. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of tension.
I'm a vampire.
Vampire! You want to draw attention to this house?
Got a whole documentary crew following you around.
My name's Taika.
And my name's Jemaine. We made What We Do in the Shadows, which is a movie. But here's some other vampire movies that we like.
The Lost Boys.
Salem's Lot.
Interview with a Vampire.
Nosferatu.
Let the Right One In.
Fright Night, the original.
Vampire's Kiss.
Scars of Dracula.
Scars of Dracula. The prequel, Wounds of Dracula.
That's not a real one.
Jim's vampire is called
Vladislav the Poker.
Was once a very old and powerful vampire who ruled over a little mini kingdom sort of thing. He was very powerful. He used to have great power over people and very strong powers of hypnosis. He's not lovable at all.
And then, but now, let's catch up.
He's lost a lot of his power now.
Now he's flat sharing.
Yeah, he's got probably a medium-sized room. He hasn't got the biggest room in the house.
Not even the biggest room. Used to have a kingdom, now doesn't even have the biggest room in the flat. Taika plays Viago, who is a very romantic, and she's kind of the mother hen of the flat. I make sure everyone's organised, tries to get them on their chores, but also he's got a romantic side. He's in love with a woman a human woman that he missed his chance with, and he still thinks about her a lot.
Who's your favourite vampire of all time?
Oh God.
So many to choose from.
I want to say
Dracula. Dracula's obvious.
Dracula's pretty good.
Nosferatu.
Gary Oldman and Dracula is pretty good.
I am Dracula.
Oh, the vampire in Let the Right One In is a great one. She's a child, appears to be a child. So, but surprisingly, can be very threatening.
When you're a vampire, you become very sexy.
But you don't. If you weren't sexy before, you're not going to be sexy undead.
Especially these guys. You know,
so I will say, I would have loved to be dating or living with these. I mean, the TV show, we have women, right? So we have the best women. But that's also. Here's the thing, when you have roommates that all think they're the most special person in the world, because this is very toxic masculinity, toxic narcissism at its height, it is amusing to watch because it is kind of like art school roommates where everyone thinks they're the most special, they're the most interesting person.
This isn't a meeting to tell how cool you are. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And it's a meeting about you not cleaning up your shit. Yeah, and to keep the young ones reference going, it's like if you're all Rick. Right? Like you all think you're the most important people's poet. Like you're the coolest.
Hands up, who likes me? Yeah. Okay.
Right. It's it's just that's what reminds me of it. And then you have to have mellow people and you have to have a psycho like Vivian. So it's like
right.
I really love this show when I keep thinking of the young ones because I'm like, yeah, it's the young ones with vampires, but also they're just trying to figure stuff out because they're so behind the times, some of them, that they're like, and time means nothing. So it's like, how do you reconcile? And also they have enemies just like everybody else with clicks. So the werewolf scene when they interact with the werewolves for the first time on the movie is hilarious. And I love that so much.
And they don't believe in ghosts. That's another trope that's even in the show. I'm like, vampires don't believe in ghosts. And
I love that.
You even see it in Dark Shadows too. I'm like, what's with this trope of vampires not believing in ghosts? This
Yeah,
is the
and
weirdest
also it's
trope
in
ever.
lots of other shows. I think Supernatural made fun of that. Buffy made fun of that. So if you watch other shows that have vampires as the main characters, there's a lot. There's so much reference in this movie that is really this is a love letter to reality TV shows like The Real World and Big Brother and those types of things.
Yeah.
But
And
also to
Vampire
young
Slayer.
ones. But also to every vampire thing ever made, because this movie references so many great things, and I'm like, oh my god, you guys nailed it.
And that's why I said earlier today, it's the walk hard of vampire movies, because it really did change like what you can do with a vampire film. There's
They're
like before
goofy.
and after.
They're normal like us.
Yeah,
Well, but also like but it's the same thing where it's referencing like Peter, that's Nosferatu, right? The Jemaine character.
Right.
Okay, that's Bram Stoker's Dracula. We have like one of them is the Lost Boys. One like they and it's like they're all there interacting with each other and all being like kind of crappy to
and
each
the new
other
guy,
and like
and the new
failing.
vampire thinks he's Twilight, right?
Right,
But that
exactly,
whole scene,
yeah.
there's a whole part
Who's
of the
most
movie.
annoying.
There's a whole part of the movie where he's that guy you should never make a vampire because
Oh,
he's gonna spoil it.
No way.
He's gonna
Yeah.
ruin it for everybody. The fact that
Yeah.
he like scared the bodega guy with like that, like when he's like, "Oh, show me your vampire eyes if you're a vampire," and then he does it. You're not
does
supposed
it. I
to do
know.
that as a vampire because you don't want the humans to catch on because then that's when the angry mob happens.
He's
So it's
bragging
like-
in the club. He meets the guy who is an actual vampire slayer, and it's like, oh, I actually have
It's
vampires.
like
Like,
Evil
ah.
James. You can't make
all
off
have
of
one of
ghosts
those.
happen.
We all have one of
And
those.
I will
friends,
say, as a
too.
goth that's been at many nightclubs her whole adult life, and also like underage teenage years, there's always the guy. There's always the goth guy.
Yeah.
Who proclaims he's a vampire and tries to convince you he's a vampire, and he's not doing anything with vampire rules correctly. And I'm the goth girl that's like, no, you're not. You're not. You're in nowhere, Colorado nightclub. There's no reason for you to be a vampire, and you're hitting on a 15-year-old girl who got into this club with a fake ID. And also, you are insanely annoying. But then I wonder, after watching this, maybe he was a vampire. He's just annoying.
I met someone like that, and I'm still not sure. His name was the Cold. He exists in New Hampshire. A bunch of people said, we're going to go to graveyards and we're going to find the Cold. And I thought, go fuck yourselves. That's not real. They came back with a guy they found in a graveyard. We had him in the house for 3 days. He never ate. He never used the bathroom, and he never slept. He was committed to an insane asylum later. But
It's so crazy. I dated someone that worked at a Hot Topic that thought he was a vampire. I'm like, if you're immortal, why are you working at a Hot Topic?
Why are you at Hot Topic? You don't have a better job.
I'm like, could you be like
Count on
used
the
for
workers.
TV? Like,
We
why are
need
you
to
working at
find,
Hot Topic? Like, it was just
we need to
weird.
find
I was like,
virgin blood. We need to find virgin blood. That's why I'm in this hot topic.
I mean, unless it was like-
There you go. Yeah.
it was Virgin Blood, or maybe it was like a double bluff. Because like I feel like because Buffy talked about this a lot in the Buffy movie and TV series, where vampires would hide in plain sight in high school, right? Which is I never want to go back there.
Yeah.
But it was like I always loved how they like, you know, it's like, yeah, you're not gonna want to work at the mall, but I guess if you're pretending to be a teenager and not 300 years old, you do work at a mall. So I guess
You
it's like
also don't know-
existed.
You also
Yeah,
don't know
deep cover.
whether it's night or day in some of those malls. Like,
I mean,
it's
I
like,
worked at the Cinnabon like a real SNL goth. Like, I definitely, I don't remember. There's a whole skit on Saturday Night Live called Goth Talk, and I was that girl.
Saul
I worked at
Goodman your
Cinnabon.
boss?
I worked at Mrs. Fields Cookies. I was dressed like I looked
Maybe.
goth. They
Yeah.
let me wear all black, and I got to look like a vampire selling cinnamon buns at the mall. That was my job. So maybe people thought I was a vampire. I don't know.
I don't know if that's what people think when they see someone that's caught. They're like, "Is that a
I,
vampire?"
think
Well,
that I
maybe
can't wait to eat this delicious cinnamon roll.
You know what's
I
probably
never
what they're
did
thinking.
them, so I mean, I would say the victims would taste good. If they
I
ate a
don't
lot.
eat cinnamon rolls.
Anyway.
I never eat cinnamon.
Oh no! Are you gonna do the accent the whole time?
Yeah.
No.
Oh boy. So,
But I do. It's the thing about this show too that I really liked is that you have the reality TV tropes too. So you have the bad camera work, you have the
Yeah.
dropping of the camera, you have the confessionals where people are listening in. You have like it's so and
One-on-one.
Real World kind of spawned that whole thing in the 90s. So I really
It did.
love like some Real World. Like there were other documentaries, but Real World really did it because it was MTV. And I just remember they didn't ever. I tried to get on the Real World twice. I almost got on, but they said I was too goth So they didn't get on.
Too real.
I was like this close. We could have had this show in reality with me in it. Like I could have.
And they didn't really change that format at all. Like you watch like Jersey Shore or some bullshit like that, right? Like they didn't change that format whatsoever. It was still the real world format. Like
even Real Housewives, even like
they just started scripting it at some point because there's people know to expect certain things.
Because you know what a real reality TV show would have? Just a camera guy and a mic guy. That's it. Why do they need grips? Why do they need people for lighting? Why do they need this? Why do
reality
they need that?
TV has also changed what it actually means. So now it's an escape from reality. It's not reflective of reality. So that's what it's like. But it is kind of weird because I do have friends that are directors and writers, but they don't get up for Emmys or any awards because the guild will not recognize them as writers because it's reality TV. So they dump it into the game show category, which also is scripted for the anchor people. They're not just winging it
because they're winning a prize because they're contestants. They're writing script for contestants.
Yeah.
So because most reality TV show was not live during the day. A lot of reality TV premieres at night, so they would only be option for like a daytime Emmy if that was the game show category, which is another way to keep them out.
Yeah, and also the daytime Emmy. I've been to the daytime Emmys. It's like that's where they put the stepchildren in the basement. It's not glamorous. You don't get any press. None of the press show up. The red carpet is like at 10 in the morning. So like no one is awake. Like it's just so like sad to be at the daytime Emmys. Also, you're there with so many soap opera stars that are just that have been wanting an award for 20 years. So it's like the desperation. You can smell it amongst the Drakkar. Yeah.
They eventually just were like, here, we're just gonna give this to you.
That's what I asked earlier if you guys had done anything that was scripted versus say improvised, because this is deeply improvised. This is like the biggest net you could possibly cast and then taking the gems out of what you get from massive amounts of filming.
I find it fascinating that their workshop, like you can watch them in real time in that 2005 interview
first short
vampires thing. Like you can literally watch many of the bits in here. They're workshopping them, and then they know their characters so well because this is definitely improvised. But they know their characters.
25 hours, which they have offered to let people edit themselves. If you want to, you can try and re-edit it yourself. They were talking about this.
Why don't we do that? We need to do that. Let's get that put in.
Sounds great.
But like, I appreciate the fact that by the time they did this, like this movie, they could improvise it really fast because they knew those characters like the back of their hands. Because
they had written the character through doing all these kind of.
Also, a lot of them are comedic actors that improv is kind of like a second nature thing. So it's like you don't want to put a bunch of actors with zero comic skills to improvise because then it's just awkward and sad. So the fact that these guys were already naturally funny, already comedians or comedian writers or comedic actors and they're friends. So
that's
it's like
Flight of the Conchords in a nutshell. That's why that show works. Is like those guys are all great improv people and great writers, and then also they wanted to base something that worked around the music because they had the act as well, right? So like they did it, and it was fantastically successful, especially among fellow musicians.
You can see like
with the exception of Stu, who is not an actor at all, which is
not at all. No.
Which is totally great because he rules.
He's a Nick Frost. He's the Nick Frost of this show because Nick Frost got his start because him and Simon worked together in a restaurant, and Simon Pegg was an actor. And on Shaun of the Dead, that was his. No. Was it Spaced? Spaced might have been his.
It was Spaced first.
They had the drone. Spaced was the Robot Wars episode that he was in, which is a piece de resistance. Like watch it on YouTube; it's great, or wherever it's streaming. But then when you watch Shaun of the Dead, like still Nick to this day was like, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be in this because this is a real movie. And Simon's like, no, you're stuck with me. You're going to be in everything. So they are like, I mean, just now, I would say in the last 10 years, Nick is like on his own, doing great stuff on his own. But, and he's going to be in a rideshare, a horror film that's coming out that just got announced yesterday. So Nick Frost is fine. Like, I love Nick more than anything in the world also because he's just so genuine. But I love it when you find out, you watch a movie that you love and you find out these people weren't trained to be actors, but they're so good at it. And I love that about this film. I love that about this film because you're like, holy crap, that was just his friend that he got. And then also he's just his friend in this show and also kept the same first name. So it was like
fantastic.
Okay,
it's easy to remember.
Well, I mean, Nick Frost had like a character down from Space where he's like he's a guy that sells weed. Like he's the guy that sells you weed that's kind of a fucking scum. And he had that in face as well. And then when he did Shaun of the Dead, like that's Ed in Shaun of the Dead. Like he had that bit down as like a first
He's
bit.
also, I will say, Nick Frost is also very nice in real life. I think I've had more conversations with him late at night on Instagram DMs because we both don't sleep. So like I remember like talking to him a lot. But
Maybe
also,
you are a vampire.
But he's
maybe.
also just, he really appreciates his fans, and also he loves the same stuff that all of us do. So he loves horror. He loves all the like, you know, cheeky stuff. So I'm very, but with this show, you have
He
so
loves
many
Point Break, as we learned in Hot Fuzz. You know.
Yeah. I mean,
You can
it's a great example of improv too. There's so many improv takes in that movie, and I love it for this movie too. It's just you know that I wish they would just do a Criterion where there's like a box set of everything they film. Just put it all in a box set DVD. I will buy that if it's $150. I don't care. Like I don't care. Just give me every morsel of this movie because I want it as like a Criterion like deluxe set of all the outtakes, all the improv, everything. Just give it to us.
125 hours.
I want it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, like, adding on to kind of this stuff, the other character that's in this, right? Like, Jonathan Brew, like that guy, the guy that plays Deacon.
Yeah,
I think he was a lot less experienced, I think, with the whole like, you know, I mean, he was on a live comic show, and then he was on like some other stuff, but he didn't have like the high profile that you know that the other two had, you know, elsewhere. And
he's still in the new Office.
He's in the new Office. That's pretty. I mean, that's a big role for him. But like, I think it's kind of interesting. Like you can see him in that 2005 thing, like kind of struggling through the improv stuff. Like there's a whole sequence where he's like he's Deacon on the couch, and he's like I am this amount of years old. No, just kidding. I'm this amount of no, just kidding. And he's like struggling through the improv, like, where everybody else kind of does it like inherently. Like Jemaine Clement, his whole thing in it, where he's like, what we do in the shadows. What else do we do in the shadows? We go to the mall in the shadows. We shop in the shadows. We make love in the shadows. I mean, like, I find it fascinating to look at their different kinds of improv styles, or like their different that they kind of have in that. And then by here, it's kind of I mean, it's obviously also like the best takes of everything. You know what I mean? Which it is.
Yeah.
In the other one, but like I do appreciate the level of like I don't know, like I like looking at unvarnished, like completely unscripted, like, you know, just bare minimum, like they don't even have real fake vampire fangs, like it's literally just the plastic ones you get at the dollar
Yeah, they're
store.
getting by on like panache and personality and just like doing bits, right? Yeah.
I mean, the ultimate joke would be though if real vampire teeth does look fake. That would be the ultimate. Like, I mean, if you need to be a vampire to hide in plain sight, it would be great. It's kind of like if Elvis never died, but then he became an Elvis impersonator, and that way he could stay alive and no one would know. It's like that. Like if you're a vampire, but you don't want to be found out, the best thing to do is look like a fake vampire. I think that's like the best way to like survive now. Like I think if you existed now, it'd probably be an influencer of some sort. But I wish there was like an updated, like I wish they would do another version of this, not a remake, but some sort of thing where you could show, because on the TV show, they do mock a lot of modern things like, you know, YouTube and TikTok and all that stuff. But I don't know. I love this show so much too, because you forget how old they are. And when you think of your grandparents or parents just giving up on technology, because every one of us, I promise you, will give up on technology at a certain age where we're like, I just don't care anymore. When you're at that age,
I'm already there.
I want to learn all the new stuff.
I want to learn all the new stuff because I have massive FOMO and I don't want to feel like I'm 80. So that's why I do.
That's the same thing with me. What the kids are listening to, they're like, you're 31. I'm like, exactly. The times they
if I don't know the band, I will look it up and like memorize their Wikipedia page and listen to all the music because I don't want to not know something and be that person that's like stuck in a decade, because I kind of am in the 80s, 90s realm. But it's like, yeah, you have to, if you're going to live for like 300 years, you can't just stay in the decade you like.
Exactly.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a bunch of people that are my age have definitely done that, and it's very sad. Yeah. I like that you see introduction to this mostly through Stu, which like he shows them like the YouTube of like the sunrise.
Yeah,
you know, fantastic, great. Mm-hmm. He like shows them how to like do searches. Like he shows them how to text, and you know, like
the line in that where they're like, "Oh, you can find virgins on here," and then they go,
right.
"There's no way a virgin is doing that."
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's also like referencing the new movie that just came out about, was it the Craigslist or whatever ad that was like people advertising to be victims for vampires, which was a thing on Craigslist.
Humanist vampire.
Yeah, and that was a
suicidal
thing
person.
when I was in San Francisco in the 90s. I remember there was a bunch of people like offering themselves up as vampire victims on Craigslist to the point where Craigslist had to put out like a statement saying,
cut this out. Yeah,
please stop doing
enough.
this because if you die, they don't want to be liable or whatever. But I just because there was a Craigslist serial killer for a while too, so I was just like thinking of that, but also. I love that they had a character that's like the young teenager or preteen nephew at every Christmas gathering with the family that has to teach all the grandparents and parents how to use their
Oh, good, you're
iPhone.
here. Go. The computer's all messed up. There's
It's
like
a
a virus. There's all
spot.
these pop-ups. Can you take care of that, please?
He can't drink alcohol.
That's
with
a
the
smart
adults.
move. Make one vampire. If you're going to live like this, make one vampire in your friendship group be the guy that knows all the tech. Because that way they fix everything.
That would be me, and that sucks
Yeah.
because I already am that guy, and I'm about to be 47. I'm still that
I'm
freaking
kind
guy.
of like when it comes to like learning how to work computers and social media and all that. But one thing I want to talk about.
Well, hold on, before, can I read that? I've had this in like 3 minutes. Like, one of my favorite parts of the movie is how well the group is taken with the human stew. Loved those vibes and loved how protective they were of him. Agreed.
Well, it's so much funnier when you realize that he's like just a guy, like really is just a guy.
He's
that's,
just a
like,
guy. He's literally just a guy.
went to high school
The
with.
guy.
And it's just like, hey, you want to come on like this film set that or whatever? Like we're just kind of shooting the shit. And he's like, yeah. And then they shot so much. I didn't actually know that, Katie. Like they shot so much that that he was just kind of
In it.
like he didn't know. Like I knew that
He didn't realize the how
Yeah.
big the part was, basically.
Until the premiere, he didn't know he was
Amazing.
actually
Yeah.
a main
See,
character.
I
They
knew that part, but I was
photoshopped him
trying
into
to
the
figure out-
poster to not pick him.
I love that.
I couldn't figure out how that would have happened until you said that. Like I was like, how did you not know? And then that makes so much sense.
Christina, I know you had a point you wanted to get to.
Yeah,
What was
Christina, what were you going to say?
So I'm a huge fan of Taika Waititi as a director, and of course, this was his first major film. He did Thor Ragnarok. He did Jojo Rabbit. He admitted that he directs films because he wants to make money. Like that's literally the goal of.
Yeah, people got so mad at him.
People were
Yeah.
still mad at him about this, and I'm like, guys,
Why?
James Cameron, because I think they're mad at how Thor: Love and Thunder came out. Apparently, I guess I don't know.
It's
But,
the
like,
best one.
in my opinion, I liked it.
Yeah.
But like it's so weird how people are so like other people say, yeah, I do this for money. I produce for money, I write for money, I act for money, I do this for money.
What else do you do for money?
James Cameron. James Cameron directed films for money, for a scene exploration. I'm like,
Sure.
Most
why
people
does
do.
I'm like, guys, this is not something new.
I
He's
think
being
I
honest.
think people got mad at him because it's like the indie thing when it's like, oh, there's
Yeah.
a hot indie director.
Well,
and then they're like, oh, like I think people think of that as like selling out. I'm not saying it is.
Because he's not saying he directs all of his movies to make money. He directed Thor Ragnarok.
No, he directed
just for the
Marvel.
money.
Yeah.
Marvel.
Oh, a Marvel movie. What?
That's
Okay,
like
so-
every actor and director ever has talked
the
about.
history
This
of
is the
mankind.
thing I did. Adam Sandler makes a whole career out of doing one of those and then something he wants to do.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Welcome to
Especially when he
Hollywood.
gets,
That's how Hollywood
especially when he
is
gets
done.
snubbed by the Academy for being like an incredible
That's
actor.
right. You guys are right. 100%. That's how Hollywood's run. If you are an artist, you have to reconcile with your art side and your commerce side. And the whole thing about selling out so like, is that an 80s term?
It's a 90s construct. But
Okay.
I just what I'm going to drop first is that so his first movie was Eagle versus Shark, which I mentioned earlier. I saw that like when it came
A
out,
lot of
loved
good
it.
movies in his filmography.
Right. And then Boy, which is also great. Still like, I'm on the indie side, but like very acclaimed. And then it's What We Do in the Shadows. And then Hunt for the Wilder People comes after that, which is the one a lot of people like don't really remember or like are usually they don't even know. It's great. It's really good. And it's got Sam Neill, so I'm already in.
Which one is
right?
this?
I didn't realize that it was.
Maybe I'll tell you eventually.
It was produced by Cliff Curtis. I'm talking about the movie. You're like the Hunt
Yeah.
for the Wilder. Like it was produced by Cliff Curtis.
It's great. It's really good. It's so it's sort of like he was doing he was doing that, and then we got tapped to Thor Ragnarok. I was like, really, that guy? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then he made, and it was so good, and it was like in the way that the James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy was so good, and it was like exactly what the world needed for those kinds of movies at that moment in time. That suddenly is like, oh, he's a mainstream director now. And was he make Jojo Rabbit, the singing Hitler movie? Great.
Yeah.
So good.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Won an Oscar for it.
But again, What We Do in the Shadows, not his first, not only his first film. It's like he was like pretty deep into like it was the third in his like feature length filmography, and that's not counting like other indie projects. So that's why it comes off as assured as it does, I think.
Yeah,
I think Thor Ragnarok was the first one of the Marvel movies that I saw that wasn't just kind of background noise to me. That I was like, okay, like this, like this is actually pretty funny. And then I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, this is pretty funny. Like
it
as like
really
another
shows his talent. Like he really like when I hear that he like writes and when he's gonna write direct a movie. I mean, he's done like maybe one or two films that weren't great, but like other than that, most of his filmography, like he has talent. He has the means. Like he has what it takes to do really really good material.
Serious. Too, like the soccer movie, that was about. What was
I didn't see that. Sorry.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was like about it's kind of like
next goal wins.
It was like Ted Lasso, but with soccer/football, whatever you want to call it. I loved it because it was the thing that he does really well is heartwarming character. So it's not just humor, it's not just quirkiness. He really shows the heart of a character, no matter how ridiculous they are or how weird it is. He shows the humanity, and that's why this is so great, because this movie ironically shows the humanity side of vampires, even at their worst, even at their most annoying. And I love that he did that, because I think a lot of times when you think vampire movie, you think that they have to be like the underworld movies, right? Like it has to be rich, bougie bougie goths that like just are really that hate humans, and they're just like they just turn up their nose at everybody and blah blah blah. And I do love that this show, like this movie, is really showing you, right, that vampires are not as cool as they think they are sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole thing. They have all these like peccadillos. They have all these like toxic character traits.
Yeah.
And they suck just like everyone else, and also not like everyone else.
Yeah.
You tagged my joke for me. Thank you.
Sorry.
Only lovers left. My keyboard is like broken, so I'm gonna have to respond to this on air. We've done Only Lovers Left Alive, Ron, who's coming on next week for From Dusk Till Dawn.
That's a great movie.
We did it. It's weirdly the only Jim Jarmusch movie we've ever done, which is crazy because I'm a huge fan. Yeah,
but did you do the zombie movie with Bill Murray? You should do the zombie movie with Bill Murray, because that's freaking hilarious. And that's a Jim Jarmusch movie. It's in black and white. It's really good.
Don't Die.
It's a Dead Don't Die, and it's not even in my top 5.
And it's got Kylo Ren in it, because I don't call the actor, but I don't call Adam by his name. I just call him Kylo. So it's got Kylo, or not Kylo. Yeah, Kylo.
Jim Jarmusch.
Glad we sorted that out.
Moved up to the Catskills when I first moved up here, like right around the time I first moved upstate. Like when I was a kid, Jim Jarmusch had gotten a house in the Catskills, and so
really?
all of the Dead Don't Die is shot at the like Phoenicia Diner. Like it's shot in like Woodstock. They shot a bunch of it. Like it's
such
all
a great movie.
Yeah, I heard, like, I was really excited to see it, and then I heard it wasn't as good as.
No, it's great. It's my favorite zombie movie of all time, and that's saying something, because I love Shaun of the Dead. I actually like it better than Shaun of the Dead. So I mean, don't tell Simon
that's nuts, but opinions vary.
Also, Uncle Ron with the best crossover vampire, Barbara Collins.
Yeah. I was going to say, I can only throw things on screen right now. I can't type.
I'll snap with you, Kristina. I'll snap with you.
Yeah.
So that's
right.
Of course, still going through Dark Shadows on your channel, Kristina?
Oh, yeah. Apparently, the walls are closing in on Barnabas.
Yeah.
The walls are closing in. Like, David knows he's a vampire. Also, that kid is clairvoyant and doesn't listen and needs to get drowned in the ocean.
Thank you.
He was always annoying. Anyway.
There should be more kid drownings in those shows. Sorry, that went dark real quick. Sorry.
Ron says the Dead Don't Die is up there near the OG Dawn of the Dead for him.
Maybe I need to see it again, because I saw it on a plane and I thought it was.
Oh God, no! Don't watch anything on a plane. That's gonna ruin it for you.
Of course, I'm gonna watch stuff on a plane. Don't tell me what to do.
This on a plane.
Yeah, she watched this on a plane.
I think if it's a long plane.
Connie, it's not Tarkovsky. It's the Dead Don't Die. Come on. I mean, like, it's like what?
I think KT probably got a good experience because it's a long flight. But if it's not a long flight, you're gonna be like stressed out about travel, right?
I was also landing in the place the movie was. Like, I got excited about New Zealand. I was like, I'm gonna meet all these weird ass people who talk like this in like 27 hours. So
My go-to flight, even though I've never flown before, would definitely be red
Never
eye.
flown before? You're not missing much.
Well, last time I watched it,
you are a glutton for punishment, and I love it.
I watched Die Hard.
I never
2.
put on anything I'm not going to be able to finish, by the way. And I've flown many times over and will fly many times in the future.
Die Hard 2 on a flight is classic. So Die Hard 2.
Interject. Letterboxd just published the Delta Airlines
Oh,
factoid
I
for
saw
most
that.
watched films
Yeah, I
on
saw
a plane.
that.
What
And
is
the
it?
number one was Interstellar, is the most watched movie.
Would
on
not
plane.
expect that. Yeah.
Wow.
I thought it'd be like Anyone But You or something. Like something where like it's
Something
innocuous
something.
and kind of like.
No vampire movies? Like not even this one?
Well, I know that top
If
5
Katie watched
on,
it should count.
Air Force One, because it depends on the president, right? But Trump, when Trump was president, let's just say some of them were maybe a little bit more Skinamax than the normal presidency would watch.
Also, he's a
But
big
you,
Sunset Boulevard fan, which is like
yeah,
totally makes
oh,
sense being a
no.
dramatic little bitch.
If we redo
Thank you.
Sunset Boulevard, let's get Donald Trump on.
No. The parody porn. I don't think he was watching the original, but yeah, Star Wars was a big hit with him, and I was like, please don't show Trump Star Wars because that's gonna be a bad idea for.
I wonder which one it was. I bet you it was the one where Carrie was dressed up in that gold bikini.
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right.
Though I don't
What
know.
are we even
That
doing
would
here?
have been-
All right, come on. Full reset. Okay, movie What We Do in the Shadows overturns a lot of the tropes that happens with all these vampire movies, but does it with a deep and earnest love for what came before, which I think is distinctive and interesting because they're celebrating it in all its ridiculousness. And that carries through the show and the spin-off media. And I think for my personal sensibilities, that's important. Because I don't like things that are like your Sharknadoes of the world, where it's like, look, it's a piece of crap. Hey, everybody, it's a piece of crap. Look what we're doing.
Well, I think if we only had one Sharknado, it would have been fine. But the fact that there's like, it's like the
One too many for my taste, but I
50 of them.
Almost.
There's enough.
I know.
But it's the Sharknado sensibility that I despise more than anything else, which is sort of like disaffection and moving away from, like keeping distance away from something and not actually caring about the thing you're attempting to lampoon. That's a problem for me. And it's usually bad.
I would say, because I know the guys that made Sharknado actually do love it, and the people in it love it too. So I don't want to.
Sorry, I said the word Sharknado now, but.
Well, no. I think you have a good point, but you have a good point, but there also are movies that are like Asylum movies, right? From the producer. Not everyone can be Blumhouse. So Asylum like does what they did with porn, where they take whatever movie's really doing well and then do a porn version. Asylum does their version, which is always a Roger Corman. It's like Roger Corman with an extra $1,000. Like that's basically.
Oh, we're doing volcanoes now? Great. Greenlit. Okay.
But then you also have movies that were done because of Twitter fights. Like Cocaine Bear is based on a true story, but it's not obviously a true story.
Sad that's Ray Liotta's last movie. It could have been Substance.
But also you have horror films.
I think there was one more movie
coming
that.
out, but you also have films coming out because things no longer are trademarked or no longer you have to get permission. That's why we have a Winnie the Pooh horror film. So like I think
that's why in the Herzog Nosferatu he's called Dracula because the copyright expired.
So I feel like
and it's like congrats.
I think
it would have been fine if he was Orlok. It wouldn't have changed at all.
Oh, man,
but okay.
They could have added imagine like them hanging. I mean, that's another thing too about What We Do in the Shadows, especially with the TV show. They could have had a Dracula in the Vampire Council, because we know the Baron's like the almighty, oldest vampire. Yeah.
We have a whole episode of Buffy the TV show.
Well, they still got a whole season coming up, right? So they've still got time.
It's about to drop in a few days.
And that episode of Buffy where Dracula shows up is hilarious because he wins over the ladies, but all the dudes are like, this guy's a joke. Like even like the actual vampires are like, this guy's a joke because he dresses like Dracula from the movies, Dracula in Buffy, the TV series. And it's so referential, but also so funny because it's like all the chicks love him, but like all the dudes are like, this guy's a poser, even though he's the OG. He's acting like a poser. And that's what I love about this, because you have versions of vampires in What We Do in the Shadows that are like kind of direct, not rip-ups, but obviously they are the Dracula guy, the guy who wants to be the
it's
Twilight
homages
guy, the
to
Lost Boys
previous iconic characters.
Like they wanted
Hey, you're the Dracula guy. I get it.
There it is.
Well, whatever was
like
famous in their era. It's whatever's famous in their era. And I do wonder about this a lot. Like, if you became a vampire, you get a clean slate, right? Because everyone who knows you is going to die. So you're basically the new kid every 100 years. So you can say whatever you want to say unless you're hanging out with other vampires who know you started out as a dork.
What type of vampire would you guys want to be if you were like what type of like a Dracula or a Lost Boy or Dracula's daughter? Type of...
This is Forrest. Remember you see the wrap up shows at the end of the month. This is a perfect question for that. This is like absolutely perfect question for that.
Well, I mean, you asked it. Should we answer it?
Yeah.
What kind of vampire would you be? Yeah, what would you be, Kristina? You start.
I would probably be like the OG Dracula's daughter, not like how Abigail's because she's literally a child, but like the old movie of Dracula's daughter.
40s?
That one definitely.
Yeah, she's gorgeous too. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, it's also the 40s, so yeah, that's a good pick. What about the rest of you?
I mean, I feel like I would be stuck being like the Nosferatu kind. Like I would stuck.
Because you're bald.
You just wanna.
I just feel like I don't know, like
you don't have that personality though. You're too nice. I don't think you could be Nosferatu. You'd be a nicer vampire, wouldn't you? Or would you just
Nosferatu
change?
not nice? I feel like he's just kind of there. Like I feel like you just kind of
switch it on the light switch in SpongeBob.
Like I guess it's kind of a dick.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it was actually invoked in the comments. Only lovers left alive. Like was Hiddleston's character is like perfect. That's me. That's me. If I didn't have to have a job, is like great, perfect.
What about you,
I think that, I think about this sentence. People often misunderstand. You can't have your cake and eat it too, because they're saying it wrong. And it's actually that like you can't have your cake and then also still have cake to eat because you've already eaten your cake, which is a common thing that people are going to misunderstand. And that kind of drives people to understanding the fact that I am an energy vampire and I will tell you trivia until you die.
Yeah, I might as well. And I'm kind of the same way too with the energy vampire nonsense, but I feel like maybe I'll be more of like a day walker.
I mean, that's what they used to call us ADHD kids anyway, that we're energy vampires because we talk too fast. We like take all the energy in the room. I like to think I also make other people energetic, but I don't think I do. I probably do steal other people's energy by accident. My favorite idea of I don't know, because I've thought about this a lot as an elder goth, because all I did was think about what vampire do I most identify with since I was like a little kid. So it's changed how I've grown as an adult. My perspective on life has changed. So like if I had been turned into a vampire as a preteen or a teenager, I would be annoying as hell. But like if I had been like now, maybe I'd be more chill or maybe I'd be more annoying. I don't know. But I would say again, We Are the Night is a great female-centric vampire film that I kind of identify a little bit with just because I think it would be fun to like basically party and steal shit and not have any responsibilities. But I don't think I would want to hang out with a lot of other vampires. Like I'd want to maybe do hang out with one at a time, not a whole sorority. Because I think when you
maybe get a mummy in the mix or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd probably rather have a whole house of werewolves than vampires. So I'd probably mix it up a bit.
All kinds of critters in the repertoire.
I would have an energy vampire, an emotional vampire, sexual vampire, your regular vampire. I have one or whatever, like different
vampire,
like a whole rainbow.
They exist. I had to look it up.
They do. They do.
Energy.
Yeah,
I just don't want to be
succubus and what's the male version?
Incubus.
Incubus, right? Yeah, Incubus. That's right.
Incubus, the band.
Ruined for forever, thanks to that band.
Also, it's a lot of people who want to be vampires. They're got that goth sensibility. So I don't even like hanging out with other goths, to be honest. Like I can't even.
You're such a goth. You don't even like the company of other goths.
I'd rather hang out with skater boys and punk kids than hang out with other goths because everyone tries to be the gothiest goth in the room. And I don't go to goth night here in LA because then I feel like it's like a competition of who looks more like Susie Sue or who looks more like Wednesday Addams or who looks more like Elektra. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. Like I just want to hang out.
That sounds exhausting. Yeah.
It's exhausting to be. I don't even do full goth makeup. I did the whole Susie Sue eye makeup and I had to get up 2 hours early like a drag queen and put all this stuff on. And also I couldn't even do it at home because my parents would like lose their shit if they knew I was goth. So I did like secretly be normal at home, and then take everything with me to high school, and then hang out in the bathroom and do full makeup, full everything. It was like I was secret goth. I was like goth in the closet. I didn't come out as full goth until like senior year of high school to my parents, and they're like, "You've always dressed this way?" Like they had no idea. They didn't know. So it's like
They apparently didn't know The Hunger was your favorite movie either. I saw that comment.
Well, they didn't know that. They weren't paying attention. I was a latchkey kid. They got jobs. Like I wasn't a rich family. So to me, like hanging out with other goths seems like a freaking nightmare if I have to do it forever. So I don't know if I could do this. Like I don't know if I could have this like living
With the
situation.
show?
I cannot. No. I cannot be in a household with all goths or all vampires if I was a vampire.
Yeah, when you say it aloud like that, that does sound like an actual nightmare. Yeah.
Well, you got to do like you got to do the monster mash where you have like a whole bunch of different,
Yeah, it's like being human.
Fun fact.
Have a novelty song.
Being human. Yeah.
Whatever happened to my
Mash-
Transylvania twist?
Oh my God. Fun fact, the Monster Mash is not even like the song is about a guy who's doing the actual dance. Like the song is about a dance called
It's
the Monster
about
Mash.
monsters,
It's about
it's-
like
The actual Monster Mash is an event that cannot be witnessed and maintain your sanity.
Yeah, Time Warp is
It's like a Lovecraftian event.
Yeah, Time
Well,
Warp
the
is more.
thing is like, Frankenstein, the stupid thing that, somebody used to always say was like, oh, Frankenstein isn't even the name of that's the name of the monster.
Can we bring this up? Can we bring this up just once?
but it's
Because I'm
the
going to say
Monster
this. I don't care if you call Frankenstein's monster Frankenstein, but what happens when that asshole that has to chime in? I think we should be allowed to beat that person up every time they play.
Just one slap. Just whack.
Because here's the thing, no one cares, buddy. No one gives a
nobody
shit
cares.
that you think you know everything about Frankenstein, the book. We don't
You
care.
think you met Frankenstein?
Say that to Robert Downey Jr.
Mary Shelley would bitch slap you.
Frankenstein
Mary
before-
Shelley herself would bitch slap you if you said
Robert
that to her.
Downey Jr. Maybe
Just
too.
don't
Oh my
say it.
God.
You don't have to say it. You don't have to show off. Just shut up. Like
the
punch
amount
the
of
guy.
the amount of vampire, for those who don't know, Bailey Sarian, my favorite, like
Oh, I love her.
She did a history about vampires that predates Bram Stoker's Dracula.
It's really good.
It's a really great episode. Apparently, a guy woke up from the dead, needed his shoes, killed his wife, and went about his business. Like,
wait, was this Jesus? Sorry, that was a bad joke. Bad
He had
joke.
sandals, Bonnie. Please.
And then, like,
Thank
that
you.
Lord
I
Byron
turned my
guy.
life, blood into wine. I didn't mean to do it.
And then the Lord Byron guy wrote like his doctor wrote the first like vampire novel, but he got the credit for it for some reason. But
Poldry.
he was hanging out.
John Poldry. I know way too much about this sexy night that happened at Lord Byron's castle on a rainy night where they were like white popping. There was a lot of group sex going on, and also that doctor was kind of like Matthew Perry's doctor.
Yes.
So I mean, he was John Poldry, who wrote that vampire thing that night, the same night of Frankenstein, right? That was he was the drug doctor. He was the opium guy. So he brought the stuff for Lord Byron. And if you're rich like Lord Byron, you have your drug guy there at night hanging out with you at your super goth slumber party. You're gonna have your drug guy there. So that's what he was. He was basically a drug dealer. So
That story though, highly recommend Bailey Sayers' history about vampires.
But
Why do you get invite her on the show? Come on.
But I will say, you couldn't afford her. She's way too. But his
We can't afford anyone. We can't afford to pay ourselves.
No, I mean, she doesn't. She's not gonna do things for free. But his story, if you read the vampire story he wrote, is pretty bad. So it's like the only really good thing that did come out of that was Frankenstein, and that was to help Mary Shelley with her grief of having, a miscarriage. So, or was it a miscarriage or was it stillborn or something? So like, and also she's the best writer out of all of them anyway. But I was just like, whenever you watch a movie that depicts that night, sometimes you can watch the one from the 90s with Hugh Grant and you get to see his butt. Like that's a thing, but like that movie has been done. Like the night that happened has been a movie, a TV show, a mini series. Like it's so many different people think they know what happened.
Comic book, a puppet show, a limited streaming series on Peacock, probably.
Oh my God, a puppet show.
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it's ether or like what. There's like something that they may have been on like a 19th century, like or whatever 18th century hallucinogen or something that they talked about.
I think it was opium and Amanita muscaria and maybe some hair, like OG heroin or something. Like I don't remember what it was, but it was definitely a hallucinogen. It was a hallucinogen of whatever rich people were doing back then. So I assume opium, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Uncle Ron Purty from the chat. Okay, I follow Bonnie and would like to hear more about their newsletter. So there you go. And it's our thirds saying it was movie chest taking an interesting turn, and I'm here for it. I feel like the after party has broken loose on the main show, personally, but
I'm sorry.
I'm here for it as well. Another point that we are going to talk about now is
this after party life.
There it is, everybody. The host of the show.
You can do it, Conan. I believe in you. You can stick to the agenda.
I know I can. I
You can
believe
do
in
it, Conan.
myself.
Keep us on track, Conan.
Everybody shut up.
There's something unique about this film and the fact that it actually takes the acolyte, the familiar, the apprentice, the slave, the Renfield style character and does something new with it, because it introduces the concept of, oh, you said that you were going to turn me into a vampire, and like kind of, and again, go back to them being like terrible and like kind of stringing along. Oh yeah, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. I'll get to that. And again, that's played off very well in the show as well with the Guillermo character. But like the idea that we have never in media within the visual medium, whether it be movies or TV, we hadn't seen that played out in that way in capacity. So you see basically someone conscripted in what's ostensibly like minimum wage labor usually, like if you're lucky, because of the promise of becoming a vampire later on.
PA. You're the Hollywood PA director.
The third unit PA.
He's like, I really want to direct, so I'm going to be a PA to a famous director, and they're going to let me produce something.
Yeah,
and then you find out 30 years later that was never going to happen unless you're like their mistress or something. But I love that this also may have influenced that Nick Cage movie, right? With Nicholas Hoult playing Renfield in a support group. I wonder, because the TV show also really delves into that in like so many ways. And I love that concept that we have Renfield being the, overworked assistant that just wants to be a vampire, but he's just kind of like the butt of the jokes. He's probably the nicest person in the room. So
that I enjoy that movie. It needed about 70% less plot, because you don't need that much plot for a movie about a vampiric familiar. The Renfield movie. I ultimately, I thought it was okay, but it could have been fantastic.
Dracula didn't love it. It did it better.
I think that it is always kind of unspoken that this is the case, but it's never really been explicitly said that the Renfield character, like the familiar, is always like, oh, he's gonna make me a vampire, and it's like, that's never gonna happen.
But the thing is, but yes, but it was never made a focus of the story. Yeah. It was always like these ancillary, secondary characters that are easy to forget about, unless some like Tom Waits were like, wow, it's crazy, he's eating bugs. Okay,
I mean, Tom Waits does it anyway. Tom Waits does that normally, so
maybe that's his regular life, exactly. But the fact that it's a focus on, again, in that single camera reality, like real world style shoot of he's gonna turn me into a vampire, and that's good. I feel like it's the right time. Like giving your feelings and thoughts on the. It's like, oh, honey, that's not gonna happen.
Well, especially because it's like a woman that's starting to age out of the point where she thinks that it's like the prime of her life. So she's like, yeah, now is the time I need to, it's almost like.
And I love that she's married with kids too. That's another thing I like about the movie version of it, because as much as I love the Guillermo character, it's a very different thing.
Yeah, de la Cruz.
But like the fact that, and then she ends up, after she becomes a vampire, spoiler alert, because of the other vampire, which apparently is the biggest transgression among male vampires is for someone to make their familiar into a vampire.
I know, right?
And then she makes her husband the familiar. Great. That's great capstone to that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
There's a great clip of her being stuck at home and having FOMO because everyone else is having fun but her, and I love that. Awesome. I love that moment, right, of the angry home alone with housewife situation where she's like, but I wanted to do cool stuff, and I love, again, they're playing on so many tropes in reality television, right? Especially when you see the not glamorous reality TV like Wife Swap or stuff that's like hillbilly reality TV or you know what I mean? There's not, it's not like Cool Kids anymore. Like everyone has a reality show. So I love that they're showing different facets of humanity that are now vampires or werewolves or, familiars. And I love that about the shows because it really does not hold back. And it makes fun of everything, so no one's safe.
Right.
They're gonna just
and this is the first one to have that be a cultural touchstone and have it be brought into the framework of the filmmaking process. And I think that is very notable, and it's something that now we think about as just being water. But at the time, it really was pretty daring.
And one more point too is, and it shows especially in the show, is that the familiars get treated like absolute crap by these vampires, and sometimes they get gaslit and blamed for mistakes that the vampires actually made, which always and that's why you see characters like Guillermo in the show have a backbone, have a spine, have a voice, advocate for themselves and stuff like that. But I would love to see like another spinoff about like the familiars instead. I mean, there was a familiar who was a cat. Like,
yeah, I love that.
Where's that show?
There's the name of the show. It's called The Familiars.
Yeah, Familiars.
There you go.
Like, it also kind of
we're greenlighting stuff all over the place.
The movie also touches on like groupie culture a little bit too, which is like kind of like the I'll find tell this vampire he's great
Right.
and like do his bidding. It is kind of like groupie stuff where you're like, oh, I'll be the muse or I'll join the band at some point. It's like you're not joining
not
the
gonna
band.
happen.
Like you're
That's
never
not gonna
going.
happen.
They're never because they need an audience and they need people. And there are great movies like this. I think Kiss of the Damned was a great artsy vampire movie with Milo Ventimiglia that came out not so long ago. And there's like a moment where they go to like a fancy party and it's like clearly some of the people that were made into vampires are kind of just audience members for the vampires who just want to show off and like show off their smarts. And that's what you don't want. You don't want to end up being made a vampire to be a permanent audience member for a narcissist. Because that's what you're going to be. You're going to be their assistant forever. Right. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be a PA to someone forever. That's horrible.
Right. You're not going to be a life partner to someone. You're going to be a third unit PA.
Yeah.
The Renfield thing, like, like in a lot of the media, like they just never have explicitly said, like, I like the idea that it's like they're kind of scheming to make the person like, they're like, I'm never going to make this person to a vampire. I'm just going to like disappear when it comes time to.
Yeah.
But like, it is kind of like once you see that as a bit, like it clicks for you, like, oh yeah, like that's the Renfield, like that's kind of Renfielding somebody, like
it's the intern.
Dracula lets him rot in the fucking jail cell, and then when he finally breaks out of it, like in every single version of Dracula, he's like, oh yeah, it's you. Oh
yeah,
man.
you. Oh, I forgot about you. Yeah.
Thank you for helping me out. And then finally he just like kills him and runs off. Like this.
Yeah, exactly. What are my keys? Yeah, okay, sure.
Where are my keys?
I thank you for showing me that house. I want it.
You will if you do. If it depends on the rules, right? Of vampire rules, but if you are going to live forever, you kind of do need to do some Anne Rice rules where you have to have a human be in charge of banking, daytime stuff. I mean, now you can do everything online, but back then, it was like you still have to have a human doing human stuff and also bring up the human facade, and that's brought up in so much vampire lore. But I do wonder, with everything being online now, if you really do need a human assistant for anything.
Yeah,
well, it's like
Orthodox
Jews on the Sabbath, where they have the Shabbos goy or whatever that they use to, because they can't do certain things because of their religion on the Sabbath. So they have like a guy not Jewish do all those things for.
Yeah, it depends on the rules, right? It depends on your vampire rules, what you can and cannot do, and need a human to help you with. And that feels like a bad idea. Like I would not want that. I don't want to be beholden to a human. But I guess you could string them along with I'll make you a vampire if you be my broker and do my taxes. Eventually, I'll make you a vampire. Like, I feel like that's a good trade-off, but who knows if that's like a real thing.
And eventually, we will get to the Letterboxd one-liners, because, of course, Letterboxd is a place for film lovers to talk out with and to each other about the films they love, maybe the films that they didn't love, maybe the films that they were sitting around waiting to be turned into a vampire for and doing sub minimum wage.
Are you okay, Conan?
Level work.
That was a lot. That was fast.
I'm trying to fit it all in. And, of course, all of this is just, it's a bottom-up democracy. Everybody gets to chime and opine in about all of this good stuff. Not just Siskel's and Eberts of the world. It's a populist movement, if you will. And every week, these are collected together by yours truly for us to look at on the screen and react to. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for What We Do in the Shadows. Let's go. I'm really nervous. I've hypnotized those cops. I'm not a great hypnotizer, so it could wear off any second. I really hope that those guys don't kill those police, because it'll mean more police will come. Possibly even Christians, which is totally the last thing we did in this house.
Ooh, on my birthday, too. 2016.
That whole, like it worked so well with his, little, fake German accent. It was, possibly even Christians, which is totally, you had a perfect delivery for that.
I almost don't like putting quotes on, because usually I feel like you need to have them in the accent, and I just don't like doing that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I mean, but I'm just saying this specific thing worked so well with that little, fake German accent that he did.
Yeah. Cool.
Just leave me to do my dark bidding on the internet.
Just leave me to do my dark bidding on the internet.
I like that.
Wouldn't it be dark web? Like, I wonder where you would hang out. It'd be dark web.
Here's the joke is he's bidding on he's an online auction.
Fun little tidbit when fun little elder geek tidbit when Usenet started, and that's the text-only version of the internet before we got Netscape and all the browsers like Mozilla and stuff. I remember going on alt.vampires and trolling people who said they were real vampires on Usenet. And you can like look this stuff up if you do Google Usenet. I'd say Google the word Usenet and then alt.vampires, and Google will show you old Usenet posts. You'll probably find mine. And I would troll people pretending to be real vampires on alt.vampires because it's text only. There's no imagery or anything. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, what if this guy really is a vampire? He's going to come for me. But it was like 1993, so I don't think he would have.
The cutscene is like Jemaine Clement sitting there like typing in an Amiga to
I know, right?
Amiga, that's the joke, everybody. Yeah.
On his Apple IIe or something.
I am typing onto my Amiga.
Oh my God, I had an Amiga.
I have gotten on with the sorcery from this disc called AOL.
You've got mail for vampires. Must be interesting. But also, good reference to Amiga, Forrest. Everyone forgets about that computer. I had one.
That was me. That was Conan.
I'm sorry, Conan. I'm sorry, Conan. I can't see you.
I must schedule this in my Palm Pilot.
Yeah, there you go.
Good,
yeah, no,
good.
Amiga was definitely choice of computers for vampires across the world.
Exactly. Is it a dead medium nobody cares about? Yes.
Exactly. It's mostly German. Yeah. Even though it's called Amiga.
This isn't even a comedy. New Zealand just be like that.
I wish. Is it? I've never been. Have you guys been there?
KT, you've been.
Yeah,
Can you
Katie
confirm?
won.
Yeah, is it like this? Are there real vampires? Katie, are you okay? I can't see Katie. I can't see any of you. Are you okay?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Katie's quiet. Is she? I mean, I only see
I
myself.
think your mic is. I think your mic is muted.
Oh,
There you
sorry
are.
about that.
Oh,
yeah. It is very, very whimsical. It is accurate to this. It's really like, honestly, if the United States goes tits up, I will be going to here. This will be the most likely place for me to wind up. It is just unbelievably wonderful, whimsical, beautiful, artistic place where just stuff like this comes out of.
Now I'm imagining that in the Taika Waititi voice. It's like, well, it's whimsical, it's magical, it's just kind of the place comes out of.
He lives here now. Yeah, I think he moved out of New Zealand to live here. So I hope LA is whimsical for him.
He's got to date Rita Ora.
LA is absolutely not
That's
whimsical.
true. He's fine. He's probably fine. I don't know why I'm worried about him.
Yeah, wait. Taika Waititi, we're worried about you. Call us.
Yeah.
Yes. You are not
Let us know
canceled
you're
in this
okay in the
household.
comments. Anyway, I tagged him on Twitter to watch this, so maybe he'll.
Very good. Nothing is more relatable than Vladislav referring to his ex as the Beast.
I love also that she doesn't like being called the Beast.
Yeah. Well, who does?
He's like, I know, but but like they do such a good job building up to that joke, like, you know, because they're like the Beast, and they're all like the weird beast creatures. And it's like, oh no, that's his ex, and she's like, all right, asshole, and she's like,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is a problem. If you make your lover a vampire, there's a good possibility you break up and then your ex is there forever, and that's not good.
yeah.
Right. That's right.
I mean, but you know, sometimes with like the Taika Waititi Viego character, maybe it works out, even though she's 90 forever.
I mean, I just stopped going to South by Southwest because I kept running into too many exes. I'm like, I can't go to band.
I had to
conventions
stop going to South by Southwest. Too many exes.
Well, if they wanted to find a bunch of versions so badly, they could have just considered the entire Letterboxd community. Light them up, light them up.
Which is funny because Letterboxd is founded in Auckland. That's like their center.
Oh, is it?
It is, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
New
Good
Zealand
little
company
trivia.
first.
I mean,
I
if
am
you're gonna make a
looking for
virgin
Burton.
joke, don't talk about. I mean, maybe I don't even think you can say Comic-Con. What would be the virgin joke now? Like Nexium?
Reddit.
Or...
You say Reddit. You say
Reddit,
if
yeah.
you wanted to find a bunch of
don't know.
versions so badly.
Yeah, I
they should have
guess.
just
Okay.
considered-
Yeah, well, whatever. We can workshop this in the after party that we're not doing. Moving on.
Yeah, we'll chat about it online.
This is literally what interacting with other gay people is like, in case y'all were wondering.
True.
Well, as a gay person, I can
Well,
say
they-
Dot, dot,
like,
dot.
some degree. The vampires, yeah, werewolves felt very straight to me though, so I don't know.
in the world, but
I like that you're fact checking this, by the way. Great.
there is something
Someone has
with,
to do
like I've had like a lot of like gay friends that hang out like in a group, and there is something about like the Nick character that like doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. That's like, oh,
Yeah.
these guys are gonna teach me.
Yeah. No,
You know what this reminds me of?
definitely not gonna do that.
Conan, what's the name of that song by Ween where it's like the boring bisexual song? What's that? It's like you probably think this song is Are You Only Dance to Depeche Mode? Like I can't remember the name of that song.
Oh God, I can't.
Is it
I
Ween?
can't
Is
remember.
it Dead Milkman?
No, isn't that's Dead Milkman?
Yeah, it's a Dead Milkman song, and I don't think it's called Boring Bisexual, but I always danced to it because I was the only out bisexual in my high school and in general where I lived. And I just was always like, you know what? That song is supposed to be a dig on the art school kids who pretended that they're gay because at the time that was shocking. And so, but they weren't. They were straights. Like it's kind of like gay till like lesbian till end of college. Like no, it's gay till graduation is what we called it. So it was like you're gay in college, but immediately you become straight as soon as you graduate from college because you're no longer finding yourself or whatever. Not realizing that, we're just born this way. It's not like you just make a decision. But I do kind of think this way. I kind of do think though that this is kind of like the art school boring bisexual house. Like I do think where it does feel it does give art school bisexual a lot. And I think I can say that as a bisexual without getting in trouble. So I don't know.
I don't know what you can say.
Don't cancel me.
In trouble.
Yeah, don't cancel me.
Dream blunt rotation.
It is. It really like I would like as someone that doesn't even smoke, I would fucking break that for the guys in this house.
Can that be the hashtag that replaces squad goals? Can I just say dream blunt rotation now for everything? Okay.
I mean, you can get blocked on all their social platforms.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that. I'm stealing that.
Other than that one technicality.
I ran into my ex.
Sorry, Kristina, go ahead.
I ran into my ex and he was with his parents, and he and his friends, who I was friends with since elementary school, they called themselves the squad. So they go squad. I'm like, please stop doing that. You're almost 30.
Okay, Nightmare blunt rotation. Nightmare blunt rotation. Count Dracula.
Okay.
Orlok.
Yeah.
And
the Count from Sesame Street.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
This is not my dream blunt rotation. I'm gonna be honest, guys. Is probably the person on the crew who does the most blunt rotations. These are pretty narcissistic, Bogarty kind of guys.
Yeah. What?
Feel like Deacon's gonna get the crutch all sweaty and gross and saliva-y, and then Taika's character is gonna cough really hard and get really paranoid. And the whole night is gonna be about making sure that he's okay, and then Peter's probably gonna fucking eat it. So, like, I don't know if I agree with this.
Well, they also
thank you for fact checking that because I think you're right. Yeah. I think as the expert.
They have no conception of time, and you're a human, so you're smoking with them, and they're probably holding it for so long because they're like, I have my whole life to do this, and you're like, I don't. Like,
I get stronger as time goes on, so they're probably not used to it.
You know what they would do though? You know what they do, Forrest, though? They would probably string you along as like, they promise you to be a vampire if you grow all the pot for them because you have to be out in the daylight. So you would be their in-house intern for pot growing.
Can I talk to you guys about the deal we had? Hey, go check on the pot plants.
Yeah.
See if they are.
Work on that hybrid.
See if the hydroponics are working outside.
Yeah, you would be the pot grower of the house, and you would never be made into a vampire. I fear that for you.
I'd be like, I don't even smoke pot, and they'd be like, go check on the plants.
Right.
Check on the cedar seeds.
Good plug.
Good.
Sponsored.
Nice. Vlad getting excited about poking someone on Facebook was the funniest shit ever.
Dude,
that is such an old reference too.
Can you poke people on Facebook anymore?
Yes.
I think.
You can?
I get poked all the time by dudes. And I'm like,
no, you can just radicalize people. Thank you.
Oh. Okay. Oh. I know you can poke people on TikTok.
The way that he says it when he's like, oh, should we poke them? And he goes, yes.
He was a torture guy. He is Vlad Tepish, right? Like he's fucking like the Vlad the Impaler. That's
if there was a way to like have heads on stakes on Facebook, he probably would do it.
Yeah, but just the response to it, the way he said it, like because he's like, oh, should we look for this? He's like, yeah, and then he's like, should we poke somebody? He goes, oh, yes. It made me fucking lose my shit.
Yeah, very good. We're werewolves, not swearwolves. Is a line
that.
so poetic the Lord Byron could only dream of writing.
I've used that ever since I've heard that. I've used that reference ever since I've heard that. anytime I'm around my friends who have kids that they don't want to swear, and anytime their child swears, I say that quote, and they don't even know what it's from, and kids love it when you say that.
Yeah, it's great.
Did you know
What
that
are
they
we?
were going to
Werewolves,
spin it
not
off into
swearing.
its own show, and that was going to be the title, Werewolves?
Yeah.
Wait,
Wow.
was there going to be a show, or there wasn't
There
a show?
was,
No,
but
no.
it couldn't be done because Taika did not have
Yeah.
the time to commit to it.
But
No,
they use it as a fake they use it as like a fake movie thing where everyone's like, oh, when are you guys gonna do a follow-up to what we do in the shadows? And they actually have been using it as a fake movie thing. They're like, oh, don't worry, we're working on our werewolves movie or whatever. That
they've been
never
stringing
did.
us along.
Oh man,
Yeah.
and Reese Darby, I feel like Reese Darby like is due for a good turn. Like he's so good, and like he just doesn't have the same level of notoriety as
Especially after
We need this movie to happen.
Death.
We need this
Yeah.
to happen. If I learned anything about bullying on Twitter, you can use it for good. So let's just bully him into it.
Bullying works. The movie.
It
I don't know
does.
about now.
It does.
The point, Deacon, is that you haven't done the dishes for 5 years. Fantastic.
Oh, get a dishwasher, you dumb immortals.
Hard
Oh,
relatable,
can I
by the
show
way.
this? Can I show my fan that I brought out just for Werewolf Pride?
Ah, very good.
The werewolf
Good.
howling, the
Yeah.
werewolves howling at the moon. It's a
Yes.
gigantic fan, just for reference sake. You can see how big it is. But this is like a very popular goth drag fan that I have out a lot in LA. But I had to bring out because I am a goth who loves werewolves sometimes more than vampires. I have to admit, I go back and forth. I'm bisexual with my cryptids as well. So I like a good werewolf, and the werewolves in this are hilarious. So the swear werewolves, not swear words is probably the most. I love that.
Werewolves, not
I
swear
love
words.
that quote. I will use it till I die, and it's always great to say it to someone who doesn't know the reference, who's never heard it before, because they love it and they don't even know it's from this movie. So like, thank you for that. Thank you for that cultural moment.
They also say trick pants, which is my other favorite thing to say from them. And your trick pants.
Yeah.
Track
Hey.
pants.
Yeah, I like the biscotti. And I was like looking at Reddit.
Biscotti?
You
They're
mean
like, well,
biscotti?
They're like biscotti is what you'd say if you were like 8,000 years old or like whatever, like 800 years old, and you've never been around spaghetti. Like,
Yeah.
that's how you would say it. And I was like, holy shit, that's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. It's also how little kids say it. But I also like this movie. If it wasn't for this movie, we wouldn't have gotten the great TV show. And the TV show, it's the final
All right,
season
let's
this year.
save this for final thoughts and close out.
Those are the Letterbox one-liners for what we do in the shadows. Please follow the show on our Letterbox HQ account at Movie Night Extra. If you tag your review on Letterbox, Movie Night Extravaganza, something cool may or may not happen. We may make you a vampire. Who knows? Also, please follow at Always Flacco. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. He is logging all the stuff.
You're dead.
I don't have to do it like the song. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't have to do that.
I did it like the song. I didn't need you to do it like the song.
And he's logging all the stuff from this show as well as many other things. Lots of other vampire movies for you this month, my guy.
Yeah.
You're going deep, as they say. And of course, with the show as well, we're doing stories from all of the fantastic movies that we cover, ephemera, shorts, things along those lines that are all linked within there. So please follow us on there if you don't already. I am at Conan Neutron, doing dark bidding on the internet, eBay specifically, apparently. I am doing the highbrow, the midbrow, the populist fare, all that stuff. Follow me along for the Criterion Challenge. Closing out on it now in fall because I got some more touring coming up and I do not want to leave that unfinished. At Conan Neutron on Letterboxd, the Energy Vampire over there. Kristina on Letterboxd. You can follow her. And you've been a logging run lately with this month.
I've been revisiting some of my favorite horror films that I didn't log. I did a back-to-back Ready or Not and then Us. Well, I will say this. If the sequel to Ready or Not is not Ready or Not, Here I Come.
I know.
Fuck. What is the point
what
of
are
a
you
sequel?
doing?
Anyway.
Yeah, that's lost moment. Yeah.
It's a lost missed opportunity. A potential missed opportunity. We're already mad at them and they haven't even done it yet. But KT at Movie Runtime, she is logging all the stuff from her lovely Movie Runtime account and What If I Don't Like It, as well as this show, lots more. Great follow, and I highly recommend that you check it out. Forrest, I think we got a thing before we do the plugs, right?
Yeah.
You
So
wanna-
I had this and I wanted to play it and I didn't have a good place to stick it in, but this is Taika Waititi and Jemaine Clement taking over a radio station as their characters.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Welcome back. You are with the ZM. I am Vladislav Tretskops.
And I am Viago von Grossenheimen.
So, Viago, we're going to play some songs.
Yeah, we're going to have a really great time here on the ZM and
the FM.
And we're going to play many of the coolest hits from the 1800s and the early 1910s.
And today.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, that one was from very recently.
Yeah, that was Believer, American authors. It was either the band Believer doing a song called American Authors, or it was
the band American Authors.
A song called American Authors by the band Believer. I don't know which. I'm not so au fait with either the band Believer or the band American Authors.
Well, since the lyrics are I'm a believer, I think it's the song I'm a Believer.
But it might be that he's just telling everyone what his band's called. In a song.
Fair point.
I'm a believer, and I like a lot of the American authors like Faulkner, Hemingway, and I wasn't sure if he was name dropping some of those guys. They're the kind of heavyweights of American literature.
So we play another song.
It's about time to play another song. Here's another smash hit.
Oh, I don't like the title of this one.
Ooh, got the big G word in it.
God Only Knows.
By MKTO.
Let's hit it. That was God Only Knows. If you've tuned in, you're listening to Vladislav and Viago. We are two ancient vampires who've taken off the radio station, the ZM, with the FM. But do we just call it the ZM?
Just now, I used to say ZM, FM earlier in the 80s, but then it's just such a mouthful.
1780s?
Yeah, no, the 1780s. It used to be a newspaper.
Do you remember when Marconi invented the radio and we were just like, whatever, Marconi?
That's not going to catch on.
Boy, that came back in our face.
So we're going to take some phone calls now. I'd love someone to call me. I'm always open to conversation.
Viago's quite a lonely guy. Okay.
Oh, the phone number is...
you need the phone number. We're not used to this technology of phones.
0800...
0800.
Dial ZM, which is 342596. And just ask for Viago or Vladislav. Hello? This is Viago. Who are you?
Charmaine.
Charmaine?
Yeah.
What do you want? You called me. What do you want, Charmaine?
Very quiet.
You're so quiet. What would you like to talk about? Feelings? Oh.
But that was great.
That was a
Viago.
successful phone call.
That was really great.
See, in my mind, it's a success when you get connected. That was not a success. Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Turn down your telephone and radio because it's echoing like in the canyon.
Okay.
What's your name?
Annabelle.
Oh, hello, Annabelle. I once knew an Annabelle in 1926. She's dead now.
Oh.
But you are very much alive.
That's a fun story.
Yes.
That's a fun story, Viago.
What happened to the normal presenters?
We destroyed them, we killed them, and we dragged them out of... they're having a break.
They're just eating tacos.
They're doing human things, like watching television, shining the shoes. Hello?
Has that answered that question? She seemed like a happy caller.
I would be on the phone for like 20 minutes.
I just want them to have their own
imagine?
Spotify. Just give them their own Spotify channel in character. Because I did this on my college radio station one night because I had the 2 a.m. spot because, you know, that's the only spot they'd give a goth girl who's only going to play goth music. And I pretended one night that I was a vampire that was subbing for me. And I only played harpsichord music. And I was gotten into so much trouble because like the program
get really mad.
We had stuff in rotation that you need to play. And I'm like, I wasn't there. It was a vampire. I don't know what happened.
How could you blame me for that?
Like
How
the
dare you,
idea that
first of
like
all.
he was like Nirvana. Who cares about that? I'm gonna play harpsichord music for an hour. Anyway.
All right. So
It's a
I'm gonna
flex.
jump. I'm gonna jump to the plugs.
Do
if
it.
you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
Oh, am I supposed
and then
to?
hit the bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. And we'd humbly request that you watch the video to the end because it helps us with the algorithm and helps more film fans to discover the show. We're also monetized. If you want to get your chat questions definitely read on stream, you can always send us a super chat, which will help us keep the show going. Every cent helps. If you're watching on Twitch, you can gift us a free sub on Amazon Prime with your Prime membership, but getting subs on Twitch is always appreciated, and it helps to follow us on there as well. We also have an audio feed, which is available wherever you download podcasts, if you prefer to listen to podcasts rather than watch the stream. That's updated usually the same day we stream, but watching on YouTube and Twitch is the best way to get the show first, live as it happens. If you want to support us with a monthly donation and get access to all of our after parties forever, which go patron only after we do them, you can become a patron at patreon.com/movie night extra. Link is in the description for that. It really helps us keep the show going since we do have some expenses to make this happen. We also have a Discord community. Link is in the description for that. We sometimes watch movies we cover on there. We get into conversations about everything from film to TV shows to related podcasts. We even have a Discord channel for memes. It's really fun on there. You can find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and Threads. You connect with us on all of those. Talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. Lastly, we recently made a TikTok at Movie Night Extra where we're putting up short form clips from the episodes. Okay, passing this to Conan so he can tell you about his music and this week's Protonic Reversal. Conan, who's on Protonic this week?
Yeah, so, boy, lots of folks. Sugar Horse, we got Ash and Jake from Sugar Horse from the regular slot. Yesterday, I have Rose and Ed from Kino Motel on coming up this Saturday. And, of course, Steve Moriarty of The Gits, who also wrote the Mia Zapata book, coming up. And that's not counting the Karl Marx episode with Carl. That's not counting the Chappelle episode with Stin and Reagan Bush, friend of the show. And that's also not counting Freddie from Thank. So go in a horde for Protonic Reversal this month while I got another window before we do some more touring. So lots of Protonics. $1 a month, patreon.com/Protonic Reversal. But, of course, always free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. New Conan Neutron Secret Friends dates. We're playing Columbus as well as Louisville with God Bullies coming up next month, November 8th and 9th. And then shows with Dead Bob and Lung in St. Paul and Chicago, respectively. It's got the posters for those. They look amazing. So if you're in any of those cities, please come out and say hello. Come see us. Should be great. And I think that is it for right now. I was on Afternoon Tune on Monday, and that was cool. We love Josh, and that was awesome. It's great to be on that show.
Yeah, Chappelle's album was like blowing up. Like there was this video that I saw of Anthony Fantano literally bench pressing to their new album.
Yeah.
He's the music critic of the internet.
It's wild because I've known those dudes for a while, but it's nothing. It's completely deserved, all of it. Yeah, what's up, Bonnie?
Conan, can you send me info about the Pia Zapata book so I can signal boost it? Because
oh, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I knew her, so it was like I'm so glad that she's getting from
Well, and who better to write a book about her than her bandmate, right?
Of
I
course,
think that's so lovely.
Of course,
so, that's going to be really good. I'll definitely. It's a Feral House book, so I'll definitely send you a link for that.
All right, cool.
Kristina, what do you got going on?
Well, today's Friday, so that means tomorrow is Shadow Saturday. We're going to keep watching Dark Shadows. It's deep in color, finally, and everyone's like, who's the Sarah girl that keeps popping up? And Bart's just like, I don't believe in ghosts. Another vampire show from back in the 60s.
Mentioned, yeah.
And it looks like
I do not believe in ghosts.
That's not his accent. Okay, whatever. But, yeah. And
I think there's a friend of the show getting up to hear your stream right now. Actually, here he is.
There you
Count
go.
Orlok.
There you go.
Yep. But it's getting interesting. I think we're getting closer and closer to the point where Victoria might end up in like the 1700s, because this will be the start of when they do all these weird storylines that, you know, there's like a timeline shift and like different future past storylines, which I love, and that's another trope that a lot of other vampire media has adapted from the soap opera. I could go on about it. And I'm gonna try to stream whenever I can. My mom and I are playing catch up with work because the hurricane has been insane, and she got kidney stones. And it's a whole thing. And plus, I want to clean my room. I feel like I'm living like that Asmund Gold dude. it's getting bad, but the windows are open. It's nice and cool, and I'm looking forward to her last 2 episodes with From Dusk Till Dawn and Abigail.
Yeah,
Abigail's one of my favorite movies of this year.
I love Abigail. Abigail's great.
Also, the Marta draft pick is going to be the after party for Tuesday as well. So Marta Jovovich coming on.
Is that like the Midnight Madness, like March Madness thing you guys were talking about?
It is. We're basically
film.
It's just sort of like it's sort of like the Letterboxd one-liners came out of my complete annoyance at people doing unfunny one-liners. Like, well, there has to be some funny ones out there, right? And that's where that bit came from. This came out of the fact that, like, between the two of us, we couldn't decide what to have her on for. It's like, great, we're gonna do a bracket. I'm gonna come up with 16 movies, and we're gonna do a bracket, and you're gonna like pick ones until we have a decision.
Didn't Jordan Peele just do a horror? I feel like Jordan Peele just did a horror bracket recently, and that was like controversy.
He did for Letterboxd, and yeah, long and the short, there was a controversy over what won, but yeah,
controversy.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Oh boy, people are in their brackets.
Well, people get real heated about horror movies because they just did the one for Variety, and people were real mad about.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was number 1.
Can I tell you some insider baseball secret as an entertainment journalist? We do that on purpose, so you'll click the link in our advertising. We'll get money.
Of course,
that
happens. It's bait, but I feel like, I think a lot of the stuff on the list was controversial, but I feel like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a solid pick for like a number 1 like horror movie.
You can do a lot worse. He's a strong case for it, sure.
As the best reading of the brother coming in and going doing the whole the door thing. That's what I think of every time I think of it.
Okay. I just think of most rom-coms as horror films, but that's just me.
KT, what do you got?
What
do you got for plugs?
Legally Blonde. It's Wednesday Adams watching Legally Blonde. That's what I've become.
Fantastic.
Anyway, continue.
KT, what's your plugs?
So, you know, we just streamed, so I haven't really done very much. Besides that, you can check me out on TikTok and you can check me out on Instagram. I'm talking about some interesting discoveries in Petra, where they shot the Last Crusade. I also did a thing about Over the Garden Wall, which will be having its 10th anniversary on November 4th. So it's an hour-long episode of my show, which introduces you to my show, and it's visual. It's on YouTube right now. And, that's another thing that, much like what we do in the shadows, and Conan, you said this very aptly in your Letterboxd review of Over the Garden Wall, it is amazing how both ubiquitous and completely unknown this series somehow manages to be. Yeah. Like, people know it, but people just haven't bothered to see it. So if you fall into that group of people, listen to that 1-hour episode, and I will explain to you, at least the first 30 minutes, because I'll spoil the back end, why you should watch that movie or show. It feels like a movie. And then, you can also catch me spoiling Substance with Alexis Gentry on Trashwire. She has been in our comments talking to us as well. Nice to see you there. And it was just a really great time. Huge spoilers, but at this point, it's the kind of thing.
That's why I can't listen to you guys' episode.
Yeah, I've seen it, so I listened to it. It was fantastic, but I would not recommend anyone listen to that episode until they've seen the film.
It's for people who film and are like, I really just want to talk. Like, what the fuck was I watching?
Also, I will say KT's solo "What If I Don't Like It" episode, because of course I am a regular listener. I wanted to listen to that episode. Actually, made me finally watch Over the Garden Wall, which I loved, and I made a I guess semi-popular Letterboxd review. Exactly.
Flail. Kermit Flail.
That was the tipping point, as they say it, and I loved it. And it's a great episode, and it's a little break in format, but I highly enjoy it, as I enjoy all the episodes. So
thank you so much.
I love your show too, KP.
Thank you. Thank you.
I learned a lot from everyone on this show. Everybody that does stuff separately from this show, you guys have amazing side hustles as well. So thanks for including me and reminding me to like stalk you guys again. So thanks.
Exactly.
Ollie, do you have anything? You need to plug?
I mean, tomorrow night, the Night Shift, which is my horror podcast show that I do also with Renee Ruin, who is often a guest on this show. That's how we met. That's how the podcast came about. It's a horror film podcast I also do with Jenna Hayes, who's an adult film star, but also she brings the psychological into it because she just got her doctorate in psychology. So she's like she's the smart, sexy, like, and then Renee is more goth. Renee's more goth and cool goth than I can ever be. So I think I might be the like comic relief. I feel like at this point,
the normie.
We all love horror. I mean, the whole premise of the Night Shift is we always review horror films that have strong female leads, or they were written or directed by women. So tomorrow night at 8:00 Pacific time, we're going to be live on YouTube, and our movie that we're doing is a classic, Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's got one of my favorite final girls, but also Johnny Depp. I think this is the one where Johnny Depp gets, spoiler alert, Johnny Depp's
iconic death scenes in
for a movie older than most of the audience. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Is it a spoiler alert if the movie has like been out for
everyone's
decades?
seen it.
I don't know. It's a
not.
spoiler. Anyway, it's a great movie. It gave me nightmares when I saw it at a slumber party for the first time. And also, I love the idea. I always love the idea of something killing you in your sleep because you can't not sleep or you'll go insane. So this is such a great movie. It spawned so many other amazing tropes and movies, and it's also very referential of horror before it. So tune into that. I'm also I came out with I'm in a comic anthology called When We Were Young, and that is a queer anthology. All the money goes to Trevor Project, and it's just a bunch of us writing about our high school experience as, coming out of the closet. My story was very cute. It's a story I wish that I had done, that I wish I was queervoyant, not clairvoyant, which is what my character is in this comic. And it's like it's like The Craft, but like a happy version of The Craft, not how it turns out. So but I just watched Craft Legacy on Max, and it's really good. Also, by the way, if you ever want some suggestions of what the WTF movies, I just watched Daddy's Head on Shudder, and it's so crazy, creepy, weird. And then I also watched John in the Hole, which is this kid who pushes his family into a bunker and like a hole in the ground, and then just lives his life as a teenager with no rules. And it's the weirdest. So I've been watching a lot of WTF films.
The weirdest movie I ever saw is Bad Biology.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of and also Substance is like one of those WTF, but I love Substance. Like Substance is like talk about squad goals. That's my new squad goal, is just to get into.
And we're covering it on this very show next month with your co-host of the Night Shift, Renee Ruin, who is of course much missed. And,
so tune in. And you can follow me. I think my name is right there with the socials, and I have my link tree and everything. But just follow me on socials, and I'll promote it a lot. So you'll see a link to it if you want to watch. And also,
I'll throw your link tree into the description underneath.
And also shout out to Mark Borchard, who was on this, who was in the comments, who said fascinating because I've just been typing in pages for TMTS 5, 6, 7. I don't know my Roman numerals. The B and the 2 is 7, right?
It's 7. I fumbled over the exact same thing when I read that comment on there earlier.
And I should know it because I worked at Lucasfilm and we did all our Star Wars numbers.
Yeah, you should. You out of everybody, you know how to read them.
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke by the Roman Empire, but that's better.
I mean, that's better. The vampire. I guess I don't know. I remember writing.
Also, Mark should come back on the show.
I wrote fan fiction once of Darth Vader being a vampire. So if you ever want that fan fiction, I'll put it up on LiveJournal because I still use LiveJournal. So maybe I'll just put it on LiveJournal. By the way, I'm the vampire who still uses LiveJournal. I still have a.
You don't use Dead Journal?
Sound off in the comments.
Anyway, LiveJournal plug.
Oh God, Darth Vader is a YouTuber.
You have.
Yeah, I still have LiveJournal. I still have MySpace. Those are my plugs.
I find your lack of like and subscribe.
Oh my God. I'll put it on my LinkedIn, my LiveJournal, in case you guys want to check it out. You can see Conan and I meeting on LiveJournal. in 1990.
Right, like, about 100,000 years ago. Yeah, exactly.
What was that, 97?
Because we, in fact, also are vampires. I didn't mention that.
Yeah, and if you go on LiveJournal, you'll see pictures of Conan from his band and also New Year's Eve. So feel free to look.
That's true. Is there
also on Flickr?
You'll see pictures of Conan from New Year's Eve.
I posted those this year, I think.
And there was the Halloween where I was Dale Cooper and Tanya was Audrey Horne too.
Yes, you guys did good. I mean, we are kind of undead, Conan. I guess
so. I was pretty much look the same.
Well, nothing truly dies on the internet, right? Like, you know.
Apparently,
I know. Thank you, Wayback Machine. Yeah.
But Bonnie, do you have some final thoughts to get to?
Oh, yes. So my final thought. If you are a fan of the TV show What We Do in the Shadows, watch this because this is where it started, and you'll get some fun or OG jokes. But I will say, if this movie didn't exist, we would have not gotten What We Do in the Shadows TV show, which is my favorite TV show comedy because it's also got the female perspective, female vampire, and she is amazing, and she is my meme queen or my Mimi queen, depending on who you're talking to. And I love her so much. So I just want to say thank you for this movie, which then made the TV show. I hope to God someone with money and influence is watching this so we can get that werewolf show, because I would watch We're Werewolves, Not Swearwolves, the TV show. So please someone make that. And then put me on the cast or put me on staff as a writer. That's all I ask. But
not swear. The FCC is going to get us if we're swearwolves. So
the FCC won't let me be me. So let me see.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So anyway, those are my final thoughts. Is this movie is amazing. It's funny. It reminds me of Real World with people I actually would have watched Real World and I almost was on the Real World. So that would have been me. So thank you for inviting me back. I've been on the show 3 times. I've been on a lot.
I know. It's like you went from like almost a year not being on to 3 times in the space of 2 weeks. Fantastic. Great.
Hopefully you'll invite me back. Hopefully I haven't worn out my welcome, but thank you for having me on.
We'll invite you. We'll invite you back in.
And I'll be on KT's show talking
it's
about
Vampire Rules.
And speaking of vampires,
you have to be invited on this show.
And also speaking of vampires and other shows that you guys do, I'll be on KT's show because I've never seen Interview with the Vampire because I hate.
Oh, that's right. So you're gonna do it. Fantastic.
It's one of my favorite Anne Rice books, but I never watched it because I hated Tom Cruise's Lestat, so I refused to watch it on principles. But I'm willing now, decades later, to reverse that just for you, KT. So I'll do that.
And I'm willing to, and you are more than willing to trash talk it as much as you need. If you watch it and you hate it, let the hate flow, girl.
Exactly. Talk about Vader. Just let the hate flow through you.
It will. It probably will. Yeah.
But KT, do you have some final thoughts you want to get to?
This movie, it really hits home for me because one of the very first films I ever did was a mockumentary. And it was in a similar style of just like, I don't even know what the final piece is going to look like. I'm not even sure what my character is anymore. We're all just making this up. And you know, to get to see that kind of filmmaking really solidify into something that is now so firmly in the zeitgeist, universally, like outside of the country that it came from, is really just a joy as an actor to get to see people at the height of their capacity performing just hilarity. Yeah, I can't believe I love this movie, and I love this movie in the weirdest possible way, to have found it without any introduction and to just be like, this. Right. This for you, Katie? And I'm like, why would you? For just me? It's so genuine. It's so earnest.
And now I'm in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's awesome. You saw on a plane to New Zealand. Like that's like
the
peak way to see it.
Exactly. And so, you know, if you are unfamiliar with this movie, but you are quite familiar with this show, super urge of everyone here is saying, check this out. It's going to be worth your time.
Kristina, final thoughts.
Yeah. Well, my final thoughts are very similar to Bonnie's. You know, I heard about it through like edits on Tumblr, like GIFs of scenes from the movie, and I was like, oh, interesting. And then it wasn't until my Facebook was spammed with ads and promos for the TV show. I was like, okay, let me watch this TV show. But then I was like, wait, there was also a movie. Let me watch the movie first, then the TV show. And I really hope that What We Do in the Shadows has its own like additional spinoffs about different types of groups, like the Familiars, the Swearwolves. If you're someone who hates, like, who've got so tired of the mockumentary because of The Office and Parks and Rec, and like even but look at Abbott Elementary. That show's doing great. I mean, they're going to do a spinoff with like a crossover. It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like this takes the mockumentary element to a new level where it's like, yeah, you actually see like staff, you see like the camera crew, you see, you know, things messing up more than like these more polished shows. So I always say, you know, if you're a big fan of the show, go watch the movie. If you're someone who hasn't seen the show or the movie, watch the movie, then binge the show. It's having its final season this year. It's going to be premiering in a few days.
Yeah.
I feel like the perfect crossover for the It's Always Sunny Abbott Elementary thing would be the gang crashes a school board meeting.
Yes.
One of those insane
Or Charlie's the janitor again. That should be the title of the episode. The gang crashes the school board meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or
By the way,
vampires do it.
I think I wrote that earlier and tagged you in it on Facebook.
I according to our Discord too, most people were not aware of the movie before this episode, so that actually is super cool.
I
And
forgot it
is-
existed, so thanks for reminding me.
There you go.
But Conan,
we're doing the work, that
Conan,
work.
Final
Yes.
thought.
Well, I said earlier, it's the walk hard of vampire movies, right? It kind of gleefully upturns almost a century of vampire lore and turns into riotous comedy. You know, there's hilarious bits that lampoon everything. It's all the funnier if you actually know the rules and tropes, but it's done with the deepest of appreciation and love, which is what makes it work. Another thing that makes it work is that aside from being vampires, again, they all have problems, bad habits, foibles, awkwardness. You know, like I think there's this idea that when you get turned into a vampire, you suddenly become cool and wise, and these guys are none of those things. And they're not classy or important. They're terrible. They're inconsiderate. They're self-involved. All of that. Endlessly quotable. It's a really good time. It's not a surprise to me at all that the series has had such cultural cachet because it's a brilliant concept. It's executed incredibly well. And it's been a pleasure to be able to include this in on an otherwise incredibly super serious month of vampire movies. So,
Well, Dust to Dawn has some laughs too. I would
we had to have some laughs in there. Yeah. A little bit.
And Lost Boys. Lost Boys has some laughs.
Also, when she says homoerotic dick biting club, amazing.
Yeah. so last thing before we wrap up, apparently Jonathan Brew, like the guy that's Deacon the Vampire, premiered a solo in February 2020, around like COVID, premiered a solo 60-minute theater performance called Deacon the Vampire Live, 188 Years of Bullshit.
Whoa.
I think it was raising money like at the very beginning of COVID. I don't know. That just cracked me up reading that.
That's awesome. I would buy it. Is that a thing that happened, or was it like just a joke, or did he do it?
No, he did it. He did.
Okay, cool.
In February 2020.
I'll have to look on the dark web for it, I guess.
I would have accepted any of the answers to those questions as the truth. Yeah, great.
We made it up. He did it. He didn't do it.
He didn't do it. Whatever.
About it, and then COVID hit. I don't know. Any of these.
And also, just as another last thought, this is a movie that spawned a great TV show, and the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie also, as Stevie says in the comments, spawned the TV show. So be sure.
Another first round pick that we just can't cover them all. Unfortunately, okay. not in 1 month, but we'll do it another time too.
Yeah, I definitely want to do another vampire month.
But if you do it another time, please invite me back because I have plenty of trivia. And I know
we've already invited you in. So
okay, cool.
Not.
Oh, I'm invited.
Dear
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
Dear boy, you never invite a vampire in.
I mean, too late. I don't know. Does invited